Chapter 34-32. Unparalleled Immortal Palace. A handsome young man in a purple immortal robe appeared in the immortal palace. He looked domineering and arrogant. His entire body radiated with a sharp and domineering presence, causing the guards in outer space to tremble. They all knelt down to greet him, not daring to say a single word. They were afraid of angering the second prince who possessed great authority. That was right. This young man was the second prince of the creation immortal court, Li Wushuang. Legend had it that when he was born, purple energy spread for 30,000 kilometers. There were even divine dragons and phoenixes coiling around him, forming all sorts of mysterious images. It was to the extent where this Prince Wushuang's body naturally nurtured a long life bone. With his talent, it was unmatched throughout the ages, powerful to the extreme. Because of this, even though he was dozens of years younger than the crown prince, Li Wuji, his current cultivation base had already caught up to the crown prince and reached the peak of the 9th heaven of the immortal king realm. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a black robe who looked extremely refined walked into the unparalleled immortal palace and bowed to Yi Wushuang. "Greetings, your highness." The middle-aged man in the black robe said respectfully, "There's no need to be so courteous, Devil Master. Is there something you need?" Although Li Wushuang was extremely arrogant, he seemed to be extremely polite to the middle-aged man in the black robe as he smiled slightly. "There's something important that I think I should let you know, your highness," the middle-aged man in the black robe said. The middle-aged man in the black robe was called Mo Kong. His origin was extremely mysterious, and his cultivation base was unfathomable. He had always been the second prince's think tank and was highly relied on. "What is it? Please tell me, Devil Master," the second prince asked in confusion. "An uninvited guest has just arrived in the creation immortal city. Not only did he kill Princess Redleaf, but he was also unharmed by the 9 quasi-immortal emperor's furious attack. Moreover, he's the Green Cloud quasi-immortal emperor's VIP." Mo Kong's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. "My brother's people? Who is this person?" The second prince's eyes flashed as he asked coldly. Who in the creation immortal city did not know that Princess Redleaf was one of his people? And yet, this man had the audacity to kill Princess Redcloud. That was equivalent to slapping the second prince in the face. Naturally, he could not take this lying down. His name is Ling Xiao, and he's an immortal king expert from the Chaos Sea. His cultivation is at the 9th level of the immortal king realm. However, his true combat prowess was far from this. It was incomparably terrifying. Before this, he had once killed 4 immortal kings with a single sword strike and even killed the Dharma body of a quasi-immortal emperor. His talent was truly extraordinary. Furthermore, I heard that just now, he went to the Yi clan and caused a huge ruckus. Even Yi Delu, Yi Dejuan, and the others were seriously injured or even killed by him. Mo Kong recounted all the information he had gathered. A 9th heaven immortal king actually has a battle prowess comparable to a quasi-immortal emperor? This person is probably the person that my elder brother sent to participate in the trials in the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield. I never imagined that such a genius would be born even in the chaotic world. A trace of shock flashed through the second prince's eyes as he spoke slowly. Although he had a longevity bone, unparalleled talent, and extraordinary strength, it was still impossible for him to kill a quasi-immortal emperor with his cultivation at the 9th heaven of the immortal king realm. At most, the battle would end in a draw. After all, although there was only a single realm between an immortal king and a quasi-immortal emperor, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. One had to know that a quasi-immortal emperor was someone who could draw upon the might of the eternal heavenly Tao. If a god or a Buddha stood in their way, they would kill a Buddha. Because of this, only those who had reached the quasi-immortal emperor realm could be considered the strongest in the eternal immortal domain. Therefore, when he heard that someone as talented as Ling Xiao had joined the crown prince's side, Prince Wushuang's expression turned somewhat unsightly. "That's right. This is also why I'm here. With Ling Xiao joining the crown prince's side, it will definitely be like the sun at noon. After all, the opening of the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield is not only a battle between the celestial court of creation and the celestial court of truth, but also a battle between you and the Crown Prince. It concerns the future Emperor of the Celestial Court of Creation, so Your Highness, you must not let your guard down. Mo Kong said slowly. You're right. The trial of the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield is also the time for me and my elder brother to decide the victor. That's why I've invited Prince Long and the true Phoenix of the Primordial Theocrats. Both of them are also extraordinarily talented, and their cultivation is not weaker than mine. With them joining the battle, I'll definitely win. The second prince sneered. His eyes were filled with confidence. Prince Long and the true Phoenix? Are they the successors of the Dragon Emperor Valley and the true Phoenix Nest? I didn't expect that the two primordial theocrats would have successors as well. These two primordial theocrats have deep foundations and are even stronger than the Celestial Court of Creation. With their help, we'll definitely win the trial of the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield. However, Your Highness, aren't you afraid that it's easier to invite a god than to send him away? Mo Kong seemed to have a deeper meaning behind his words. Don't worry, when I return from the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield, I'll have broken through to the boundary Immortal Emperor realm. At that time, my longevity bone will be completely activated, and even Prince Long and the true Phoenix can't do anything to me. I'm just using the two of them, so don't worry, Mo Master. The second prince said with a faint smile. It's good that the second prince understands. Mo Kong nodded. Mo Master, I'll leave the rest to you. Keep a close eye on Ling Xiao and report to me if there's anything. I'd like to see what tricks my elder brother has up his sleeves this time. Yes. Mo Kong nodded and left the Wushuang Immortal Palace. On the other hand, Ling Xiao had no idea that he had been targeted by the second prince. However, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. For the next few days, Ling Xiao stayed in the Yi family temporarily. Yi Liangshui followed the Yi family's old ancestor to the Yi family's ancestral ground. The old ancestor didn't have much time left and was about to die, so he transferred all of his cultivation to Yi Liangshui. Half a month later, in the Yi family's ancestral ground, a figure with a terrifying aura soared into the sky, shaking the entire Yi family. It was Yi Liangshui. Yi Liangshui had come out of seclusion, and his cultivation had reached the Immortal King realm. Moreover, he had also obtained the quasi-immortal emperor's origin left behind by the Yi family's old ancestor. It wouldn't be long before he completely refined the quasi-immortal emperor's origin left behind by the Yi family's old ancestor, and his cultivation would directly reach the peak of the Immortal King realm. The Yi family's old ancestor had also completely fallen, and the Yi family had fallen into a state of sadness and joy. Although the rebellion had been quelled, Yi Deqing had regained the power of the Yi family, and Yi Liangshui had also become the Yi family's divine son and suppressed Yi Delu, Yi Dejuan, and the others. However, this time, the Yi family had lost a lot of Immortal King experts, and even the Yi family's old ancestor had completely fallen. Originally, in the entire Immortal Court of Fortune, the Yi family could be considered the top everlasting family. Now, the Yi family was no different from those ordinary everlasting families, and there were only a few people left. However, the more this was the case, the more the Yi family respected Ling Xiao. Especially Yi Deqing, who had almost regarded Ling Xiao as the savior of the Yi family. Any resources of the Yi family were freely provided to Ling Xiao. Therefore, during the days when Yi Liangshui was in seclusion, Ling Xiao had also obtained a lot of rare treasures, and his cultivation had also become more profound and perfect. On this day, His Highness the Crown Prince came to the Yi family to look for Ling Xiao. Senior Ling Xiao, how have you been these days? Li Wuji was modest and courteous as he bowed slightly to Ling Xiao. Pretty good. Your Highness the Crown Prince, what brings you here this time? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed and he smiled faintly. That's right. Senior Ling Xiao, there's a grand event in the Fortune Immortal City today. I think Senior Ling Xiao will be interested, so I'm here to go with Senior Ling Xiao. Crown Prince Li Wuji smiled faintly. Grand event? Oh, I wonder what it is? Ling Xiao asked curiously. The Heavenly Law auction is starting today. Many rare treasures will appear in the Immortal Tao auction, and even the eternal fruit might appear. I think Senior Ling Xiao will be interested. The Crown Prince smiled faintly. The Heavenly Law auction is about to start. Master, you must go and take a look. Perhaps you'll find many treasures useful to you in the Heavenly Law auction. Yi Liangshui said excitedly before Ling Xiao could say anything. Then, Yi Liangshui explained in detail to Ling Xiao. Behind the Heavenly Law auction was the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. The Heavenly Law Business Alliance was a powerful force that dominated the entire eternal immortal domain. It was also a supergiant. It was said that its foundation was deeper than the Celestial Court of Fortune and the Celestial Court of Truth. Its forces were spread throughout the eternal immortal domain. It was said that wherever there was a human city, there would be a business alliance of 10,000 Dao. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the business alliance of 10,000 paths was, and how much resources and wealth it had. Many precious treasures would appear in every auction. Immortal artifacts. Immortal king artifacts. Quasi-immortal emperor artifacts. There were even supreme immortal pills. There were all kinds of immortal herbs and precious artifacts. Legend had it that 2 million years ago, someone had even auctioned an eternal emperor artifact in the Heavenly Law auction. Therefore, the auction organized by the Heavenly Law Business Alliance was bound to have countless treasures. The Business Alliance of Immortal Dao. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he nodded slightly. If the Immortal Dao auction was really as Yi Liangshui had said, he was indeed interested. If he could really obtain some precious cultivation items from the auction, it would be of great benefit to his cultivation. In that case, I'll go with your highness to have a look. Ling Xiao nodded. That's great, Li Wuji said with a smile. Then he led Ling Xiao and Yi Liangshui out of the Yi family and toward the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. The Heavenly Law Business Alliance was located next to the imperial city of Fortune Immortal City. It occupied an area of a few thousand miles and had a huge manor. There were even supreme experts in the Heavenly Law Business Alliance who had opened up a small world here to be used as the venue for the Immortal Dao auction. Today, the Heavenly Law auction was held, and all the experts in the Fortune Immortal City had come to the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. However, to participate in the Heavenly Law auction, one had to have an invitation letter from the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. Without an invitation letter from the Heavenly Law Business Alliance, one would not be able to enter the venue of the Heavenly Law auction, regardless of how wealthy one was or how high one's status was. As the Crown Prince of the Fortune Immortal Court, Li Wuji was naturally a distinguished guest of the Heavenly Law Business Alliance. He was also the most qualified person to participate in the Immortal Dao auction. Therefore, after he took out a few invitation letters that were glowing with immortal light, he and Ling Xiao entered the Heavenly Law Business Alliance without any obstructions. Chapter 34-33. The Heavenly Dao Small World was where the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance held their Heavenly Dao auction. One had to admit that the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance was probably the only organization that could open up a small world just to hold an auction. Within the Heavenly Dao Small World, the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance's guards exuded powerful auras. They were all Immortal King Realm experts. There were even a few figures with obscure auras that were unfathomable. They were all quasi-immortal emperors. In such a place, even those with extraordinary talent could not help but feel a chill in their hearts when they came here. Their attitude immediately became respectful. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had used their own strength to intimidate those so-called geniuses, monstrous geniuses, and supreme youths. When Crown Prince Li Wuji and Ling Xiao arrived at the Heavenly Dao Small World, they received the warmest welcome from the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance. After all, Li Wuji was the successor of the Fortune Immortal Court in name. He was most likely to become the future Emperor Lord of the Fortune Immortal Court. Hence, he was immediately led to the Heavenly No. 1 private room. The Heavenly No. 1 private room was incomparably spacious. The four walls were all cast with celestial light glass. This celestial light glass was incomparably strange. The people inside could see everything outside, but the people outside couldn't see anything inside. Moreover, the celestial light glass could automatically absorb the origin energy of heaven and earth. It could increase one's cultivation speed by several hundred times. Even immortal kings would be able to benefit greatly from it. Needless to say, there were several beautiful true immortal realm maids in the heavenly number 1 private room. They were all gentle and lovely. They were incomparably attentive and considerate as they served Crown Prince Li Wuji and Ling Xiao. In the entire Heavenly Dao auction, there were more than a dozen private rooms like this. All of them were floating in the void. The private rooms cast with celestial light glass were a symbol of status and identity. Only the big shots in the eyes of the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance were qualified to enter. Sitting in the private rooms, one could easily see the huge platform below that was shrouded in celestial light. The platform was already filled with people who were participating in the Heavenly Dao auction. The auras of these people were extraordinary. Even the weakest of them was in the true immortal realm. Although they weren't qualified to enter the private rooms, those who were able to participate in the Heavenly Dao auction were all the descendants or elders of the everlasting families and imperishable sections. Rumble. On the platform, the space trembled slightly. In a split second, immortal light became faintly discernible, and propitious vapors rose. An old man in a white robe landed on the high platform. He had a ruddy complexion and white hair. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being, and his aura was unfathomable. Greetings, distinguished guests. Welcome to the Heavenly Law Auction. I'm Sidhu Ching, an elder of the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance, and I'm also the host of this auction. Today, I'll be bringing many rare treasures to everyone. I hope that everyone will be able to bid for the treasures that they like, so that this trip won't be in vain. Alright, without further ado, the Heavenly Law Auction will now officially begin. That white-robed old man had an extraordinary aura. Ling Xiao could tell at a glance that he was at the 9th heaven of the Immortal King realm. Moreover, he had many powerful immortal artifacts on him. One look and one could tell that he was extraordinary. After Sidhu Ching chatted with the crowd for a while, he did not waste any time and immediately started today's auction. With a wave of his hand, a beautiful true immortal realm maid in jade clothes slowly walked in front of everyone with a jade plate in her hands. On the jade plate, there was a bead that was suffused with chaotic colors. It looked extremely mysterious, as if it contained a real world. It was filled with mysterious laws of the world. One look and one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. This is the first item of today's auction, the Chaotic World Bead. The Pearl of the Primal Chaos World. I'm sure everyone knows that it's a treasure refined by an almighty expert at the peak of the quasi-immortal Emperor realm after a world is born or destroyed in the Primal Chaos Sea. It contains a real great world, and it's vast and boundless. Although the greater thousand world inside does not have eternal laws of the Heavenly Dao, it is immortal and indestructible. It can be used as the inheritance foundation of everlasting families and immortal sections. Most importantly, it can be carried around, so there is no need to worry about it being destroyed by enemies. It is the foundation of the everlasting families and immortal sections. The Chaotic World Bead's starting price is 1 million immortal source stones. Now, everyone please start bidding. Sidhu Ching said loudly, and his voice entered everyone's ears. I bid 1 million immortal source stones. I bid 1,200,000 immortal source stones. I bid 1,300,000 immortal source stones. I bid 2 million immortal source stones. As soon as Sidhu Ching's voice fell, the sound of bidding rose and fell from the high platform. Everyone's eyes were burning with desire, and they were filled with the desire to win. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji could not help but exclaim softly. I didn't expect that the first item that the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance would auction would be the Chaotic World Bead. This kind of treasure is not common. It requires a peak half-immortal Emperor expert who is proficient in space-time laws to find a suitable world in the chaotic sea and refine it. To refine such a bead, even a peak half-immortal Emperor expert would have to spend thousands or even tens of thousands of years. This is an incomparably precious world treasure. Its value is even greater than ordinary half-immortal Emperor weapons. Many everlasting families and imperishable great sects like to buy such chaotic world beads as the foundation of their families and sections. After all, as long as a powerful great Tao law or supreme formation is carved on the chaotic world bead, it will become a fortress that is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Even a half-immortal emperor expert would find it difficult to break through. Crown Prince Li Wuji could not help but exclaim. Soon, the price of the chaotic world bead had reached 5 million immortal source stones, and it was still increasing. 10 million immortal source stones. At this moment, a calm and domineering voice rang out from the second heaven box. Suddenly, the entire high platform became silent. Everyone looked at each other in dismay and involuntarily stopped calling out bids. This was because they all recognized the owner of the voice, the second prince of the creation immortal court, Li Wushuang. According to the legends, the person who possessed the bone of longevity was unparalleled in talent and status. No one was willing to offend him. I didn't expect that it would be my second brother, Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a faint smile. I heard that your highness and the second prince are not on good terms. Your highness, are you not going to compete? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he said calmly. It's just a chaotic world bead. It's not worth it for me to compete for it. My second brother and I are still waiting for our target. When the time comes, there will naturally be a fierce battle, Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a faint smile. In the second heaven box, the second prince Li Wushuang was wearing a purple immortal robe. He had an extraordinary aura and looked otherworldly as he sat at the head of the table. On his left and right, there were two young men with powerful auras and noble auras. One of them was wearing a golden dragon robe. He had long golden hair, and his entire body was filled with dragon aura. His eyes seemed to contain the mysterious scene of a divine dragon opening the world and shattering everything. He was the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley, Prince Long. The other person was a young woman dressed in a phoenix robe. She looked graceful, luxurious, and heroic. Although she was extremely beautiful, her face was filled with arrogance, and her expression was incomparably cold. There was a flame mark between her eyebrows. Her aura was extremely hot, and the temperature in the box seemed to have increased significantly. She was the successor of the true phoenix nest, the true phoenix maiden. Prince Long and the true phoenix maiden's cultivation were the same as Li Wushuang's. They had both reached the peak of the ninth heaven of the immortal king realm. They had been invited by the second prince Li Wushuang to participate in the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield because Li Wushuang had taken out a treasure that they were interested in. Most importantly, they were also here for the eternity fruit in the heavenly ancient battlefield. After all, they also wanted to consume the eternity fruit to break through to the boundary immortal emperor realm. Brother Dragon Emperor, although this chaotic world bead isn't extremely precious, it's still extremely rare. I'll give this treasure to you. I hope you'll like it, Li Wushuang said to Prince Long with a smile. Prince Long was the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley. The dragon tribe had always liked to nurture natural treasures in the small worlds. At the same time, they would pass down their orthodoxy in the small worlds to become the totems of countless living beings. They would use the power of faith to cultivate. Therefore, this chaotic world bead was indeed extremely precious to Prince Long. Hearing Li Wushuang's words, Prince Dragon Emperor's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Thank you, Brother Wushuang, don't worry. You'll definitely win the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield. How can that trash of a brother of yours compare to you? Prince Long nodded with satisfaction. In that case, I'll have to trouble you, Li Wushuang said with a smile. As he had expected, a chaotic world bead was enough to move Prince Long. He had catered to Prince Long's fancy. Then, Li Wushuang's gaze fell on the real Phoenix Maiden. He smiled and said, Real Phoenix Maiden, I've heard that there will be an eternal fire essence in the heavenly ancient auction. I'll bid for it and give it to you. Eternal fire essence? At this moment, even the indifferent and arrogant real Phoenix Maiden could not help but be moved. Her eyes were burning with passion. The eternal fire essence was the origin of heavenly Tao left behind by an immortal emperor expert who cultivated the heavenly Tao of fire. It was extremely precious to alchemists and weapon refiners. It was also extremely important to the real Phoenix Maiden. The eternal fire essence could not only help her true Phoenix fire evolve, but it could also help her bloodline atavism. This was an unimaginable opportunity for her. She had not expected to encounter the eternal fire essence here. "Thank you, Your Highness." "Don't worry, Your Highness. I'll do my best in the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield." The real Phoenix Maiden could not help but cup her fists and say to Li Wushuang, "Thank you, Brother Wushuang." Li Wushuang said with a smile. A chaotic world bead and an eternal fire essence were enough to buy Prince Long and the real Phoenix Maiden. It was indeed a good deal. After all, although the immemorial royal families like the Dragon Emperor Valley and the real Phoenix Nest had a deep foundation and a long history, they were not as good as the Creation Immortal Court when it came to treasures. One should know that the Creation Immortal Court's ancestor, Immortal Emperor Creation, was an invincible figure in the eternal immortal domain. He had plundered almost all the treasures in the eternal immortal domain. Although the Creation Immortal Court was very weak now and was no longer as glorious and powerful as it used to be. But in terms of foundation, it was still not something that ordinary people could compare to. After the second prince Li Wushuang won the Chaotic World bead for 10 million immortal origin stones, the Heavenly Dao auction became even more lively. The second, third, and fourth auction items were brought up one after another. Among them were powerful quasi-immortal emperor weapons, precious supreme immortal pills, and king-grade immortal herbs that were almost extinct. These caused the crowd to compete with each other, and they kept shouting out high prices. At the same time, the crowd was very interested in the next auction item. They were full of anticipation. Chapter 34-34. The next item is the Eternal Fire Essence. As Sidu Qing's voice fell, a beautiful female servant slowly walked onto the high platform with a dazzling golden cauldron in her hands. Boom! The cauldron opened, and a dazzling light suddenly gushed out. In an instant, the surrounding void trembled slightly, and a golden flame floated out. That golden flame looked extremely unique. It was like a golden lotus flower, but it also seemed to contain layers of fiery worlds. Although there were immortal Dao seals left behind by supreme experts in the surroundings, they still couldn't stop the flame from trembling slightly. It was as though it was going to break through those seals at any moment and break through the void to escape. It was extremely intelligent. The Eternal Fire Essence was the Heavenly Dao origin left behind by an immortal emperor expert who cultivated the Heavenly Dao of Fire. It not only allowed one to comprehend the Heavenly Dao of Fire, but it was also a supreme treasure for alchemists and blacksmiths. The starting price of the Eternal Fire Essence is 10 million immortal source stones. Distinguished guests, please make your bids. Sidu Qing smiled and said in a clear voice. His words immediately caused the breathing of many experts on the high platform to quicken. Their eyes were filled with an incomparably fervent look. They naturally knew how precious the Eternal Fire Gold was. After all, it was the Heavenly Dao origin left behind by an immortal emperor who cultivated the Heavenly Dao of Fire. This kind of Eternal Fire Essence was extremely rare, and it was hard to find one in 10,000 years. They did not expect that the Eternal Fire Essence would appear at the Heavenly Dao auction. Naturally, they did not hesitate and began to bid. I bid 10 million immortal source stones. I bid 12 million immortal source stones. I bid 18 million immortal source stones. I bid 20 million immortal source stones. The shouting of bids on the high platform rose one after another. The Eternal Fire Essence had instantly pushed the atmosphere of the auction to a climax. At this moment, an indifferent and cold voice rang out above the high platform, immediately suppressing everyone's voice. I bid 50 million immortal source stones. Everyone, this Eternal Fire Essence is very important to me. I hope that everyone can give me some face. The voice came from the second heaven box. It was the second prince, Li Wushuang. When the Eternal Fire Essence appeared, the true Phoenix Maiden involuntarily stood up, her eyes filled with an incomparable blazing light. She was determined to obtain the Eternal Flame Essence. Therefore, second Prince Li Wushuang had directly shouted out a sky-high price of 50 million immortal origin stones. He wanted to obtain the Eternal Flame Essence so that he could give it to true Phoenix Maiden. After Li Wushuang's voice fell, everyone frowned. Although they also wanted to obtain the eternal fire essence, second Prince Li Wushuang's fame was too resplendent. His innate talents were peerless throughout the ages, and he had a longevity bone. He was considered the most promising person to inherit immortal emperor fortune creation and break through to the immortal emperor realm. No one was willing to offend the second prince, so they all hesitated. I bid 60 million immortal origin stones. At this moment, a calm and mysterious voice rang out from the sky room 1. In the private room, Crown Prince Li Wuji looked at Ling Xiao in shock. He never expected Ling Xiao to make such a bid. This eternal flame essence is indeed very useful to me. Ling Xiao seemed to have noticed the Crown Prince's confusion and smiled. There was a world tree in Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. This eternal flame essence could indeed allow the world tree to grow rapidly, allowing him to comprehend the eternal heavenly Tao origin. Therefore, after the eternal flame essence appeared, Ling Xiao immediately sensed the world tree's desire in his sea of consciousness. Therefore, he did not hesitate and directly bid. Senior Ling Xiao, although the eternal flame essence is rare, I'm afraid you'll offend my second brother by bidding for it. The Crown Prince sighed softly. Everyone in the Fortune Immortal City knows that the Crown Prince and the second prince don't get along. Shouldn't you be happy that I offended him? Why do you have such an attitude? Ling Xiao said indifferently. The Crown Prince nodded, then shook his head. Senior Ling Xiao, you're right. My second brother and I have always been in a competitive relationship. Logically speaking, I should be happy that you've offended him. However, my second brother is really arrogant and despotic. I'm afraid he'll harm you because of this. However, if Senior Ling Xiao really likes this eternal flame essence, how about I bid for it and give it to you? The Crown Prince said sincerely. There's no need to trouble your highness. It's just a few immortal source stones. I can still afford it. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, appearing very calm and at ease. He came from the Chaos Sea and had drifted in the Chaos Sea for many years. He had explored many secret realms and even the cave abodes of experts. In his small world, he had accumulated a huge amount of immortal source stones. These immortal source stones were just numbers to him. If he could use them to bid for the eternal flame essence, it would be worth it. On the other side, in the second heaven box. After hearing Ling Xiao's bid, Li Wushuang's expression instantly became extremely gloomy. He did not expect that someone in the first heaven box would dare to compete with him. Moreover, that person was not the Crown Prince. It must be the immortal king expert called Ling Xiao. I bid 70 million immortal source stones. May I ask if the other party is fellow cultivator Ling Xiao? If you give the eternal flame essence to me, I'll be eternally grateful. Li Wushuang said slowly with a cold gaze. That's not necessary. Thank you, Your Highness. This eternal flame essence is also very precious to me. I bid 80 million immortal source stones. Ling Xiao was not moved at all and continued to bid 90 million immortal source stones. The second prince's voice became colder and colder. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. 100 million immortal source stones. Ling Xiao did not show any weakness and continued to bid. In the entire heavenly law auction, it seemed that only the voices of Ling Xiao and the second prince were left. Neither of them was willing to be outdone. Soon, the price of the eternal flame essence had reached a terrifying 200 million immortal source stones. Although the eternal flame essence was precious, 200 million immortal source stones had far exceeded the true price of the eternal flame essence. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and admiration. They did not expect that the immortal king called Ling Xiao would dare to offend the second prince. I bid 300 million immortal source stones. Your Highness, do you still want to continue bidding? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and said leisurely. In the second private room, the second prince, Li Wushuang, smashed the jade table in front of him into powder. His face was ashen and his eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. He was not angry because Ling Xiao had stolen the eternal flame essence. He was angry because Ling Xiao was so fearless. It seemed that Ling Xiao was determined to stand on the side of his big brother, Li Wuji. Such an arrogant and despotic person made his heart boil with killing intent. He could not wait to attack and kill Ling Xiao. Your Highness, there is no need to continue bidding. Since he dares to steal from me, I guarantee that he will die. The true Phoenix Maiden's eyes were cold as she dissuaded Li Wushuang. 300 million immortal source stones was not a small sum to them. Moreover, there were many more treasures in the following auction. If they wasted 300 million immortal source stones on the eternal flame essence, it would not be worth it. The true Phoenix Maiden hated Ling Xiao to the core. Her eyes were filled with killing intent, as if she was about to attack and kill Ling Xiao. True Phoenix Maiden, don't worry. The eternal flame essence is still yours. He can't take it away. The second prince said in an indifferent voice. His eyes were filled with a sharp killing intent. No one had expected that the second prince, Li Wushuang, would actually give up after Ling Xiao bid 300 million immortal origin stones. This was not the second prince's style. Based on the second prince's arrogant and despotic character, shouldn't he fight Ling Xiao to the end? This guy called Ling Xiao is dead for sure. He dares to steal from the second prince. The second prince did not continue bidding. I'm afraid he has already regarded Ling Xiao as a dead man. As long as he is killed, the eternal flame essence will still belong to the second prince. At this time, a veteran immortal king who seemed to have seen through the situation said slowly as he looked in the direction of box number 1 in the void. That's right. This Ling Xiao really thinks that he can be so arrogant just because he has sided with the crown prince. He is really reckless. All these years, the crown prince has been overshadowed by the second prince's brilliance. In the future, the crown prince's chances of inheriting the throne of the Fortune Emperor are probably not as good as the second prince. This Ling Xiao actually dared to intervene in the battle for the throne. No one can save him from this kind of thing. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Their eyes were filled with sympathy and mockery as they looked at the heavens box number 1. After Ling Xiao bid 300 million immortal source stones for the eternal flame essence, he did not bid for the next few items. The following items were more precious than the previous. While everyone was feasting their eyes on them, the competition also became more intense. One treasure after another was sold at a high price. The Heavenly Dao Business Union made a lot of money. Even Sidu Qing's face was full of smiles. The next auction item is rather special. Even our Heavenly Law Business Alliance is unable to identify its true origin. However, we can be sure that it is an unimaginable treasure. Moreover, it is very likely to be related to the Eternal Emperor artifact. Therefore, there is no reserve price for this treasure. Everyone is free to bid. Sidu Qing said slowly. Sidu Qing opened a black box and took out half of a black broken blade. The broken blade looked to be less than 3 feet long, but it seemed to contain a weight of 10,000 pounds. Sidu Qing found it difficult to lift it. The broken blade looked extremely demonic. It was filled with an evil aura and a Buddhist light. Anyone who looked at it would feel as if they would be pulled into it. Even their primordial spirit would be completely swallowed. This treasure comes from the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone. It is suspected to be a treasure created by the creatures of the Forbidden Zone. However, it contains the evil aura of the creatures of darkness. It is extremely strange. Even the primordial spirit of a celestial king can be swallowed by it if they are not careful. Now, everyone can bid. Sidu Qing smiled slightly and then closed the metal box. It was as if the demonic light on the broken blade had a strong influence on him. At this moment, Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of bewilderment. This was because he felt that the world tree in his sea of knowledge was emitting intense fluctuations of desire. The fluctuations were 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than when he had encountered the eternal flame essence. This broken blade must have an incomparably magical effect on the world tree. Although Ling Xiao could not see if there was any problem with it, he still decided to bid for it. Chapter 34-35. 1 million immortal source stones. 2 million immortal source stones. 5 million immortal source stones. I bid 10 million immortal source stones. At this moment, The crowd on the high platform had already started to bid. Their eyes were extremely sharp. Although they could not tell what kind of treasure it was able to almost devour the primordial spirit of an immortal king expert with a single glance. It had to be an extremely terrifying treasure. Therefore, they all wanted to bid for it and study it properly. This time, even the second prince, Li Wuxuang, bid 50 million immortal source stones. The second prince, Li Wuxuang, directly called out a sky-high price. After he called out the price, the crowd hesitated. After all, 50 million immortal source stones was not a small amount. It was too risky to use it to buy a treasure of unknown origin. 60 million immortal source stones. Who knew that at this moment, Ling Zhao's voice could be heard from the sky suite number 1 again. At this moment, the crowd was shocked. They all looked at the first heaven box with eyes full of admiration. They did not expect that the immortal king called Ling Zhao would be so daring and not afraid of death. He actually bid again. Moreover, it was after the second prince had just bid. Wasn't he determined to go against the second prince? The second prince's face was already ashen. His eyes were filled with an extremely cold killing intent. I bid 80 million immortal source stones. Ling Zhao, are you determined to go against me? The second prince said coldly. I dare not. Your Highness, this treasure is fated with me. I plan to bid for it and study it properly. If it offends you in any way, please don't mind it. Ling Zhao smiled indifferently and continued to bid without hesitation, 100 million immortal source stones. The crowd was also shocked. An item that did not look like a treasure had actually been auctioned for a sky-high price of 100 million immortal source stones. It seemed that Ling Zhao was really filthy rich. There were even some people with bad intentions who looked at the sky number 1 room with greedy gazes. 150 million immortal source stones. Ling Zhao, this treasure is useless to you. However, it is something that I must obtain. Do you really have to fight with me? The second prince's voice was bone-chilling. Everyone could tell that he was thoroughly enraged. The reason why the second prince insisted on bidding for this treasure was that the longevity bone in front of his chest was also vibrating intensely with an incomparable desire. It was as if that treasure was also extremely attractive to his longevity bone. One had to know that the longevity bone was Li Wuxuang's foundation and his foundation. To be able to make his longevity bone react to it, it must be a supreme treasure. Therefore, the second prince had steeled his heart. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to get it. Second prince, what are you saying? It's pointless. This was an auction, and the highest bidder would win. This treasure is indeed fated with me, 200 million immortal origin stones. Ling Zhao said indifferently, 300 million immortal source stones. Li Wuxuang continued to bid, 400 million immortal origin stones. Ling Zhao followed suit. The two of them seemed to have fallen into the same state as before, where they were fighting over the treasures, not giving in at all. In the blink of an eye, Ling Zhao had already bid 900 million immortal origin stones. Li Wuxuang's face was incomparably ashen, and his eyes were surging with monstrous killing intent. He had already determined that Ling Zhao was deliberately going against him. He did not believe that this treasure, which no one could recognize, would have any effect on Ling Zhao. Therefore, there was only one possibility, and that was that Ling Zhao had received instructions from the crown prince to deliberately make things difficult for him. However, Li Wuxuang was now in a difficult position. This treasure was extremely attractive to his bone of longevity. He wanted nothing more than to snatch it away from the bone of longevity. However, if he continued to bid, the immortal origin stones he had would not be enough to compete for the last treasure. Thinking of this, Li Wuxuang's hatred and killing intent towards Ling Zhao became even more intense. This esteemed guest has bid 900 million immortal origin stones. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? Sidu Qing smiled slightly. His mouth was almost crooked from smiling. Although this treasure was extremely precious, none of the appraisers in the Heavenly Law Business Alliance could identify its origin. Now that it was placed in the auction, they hoped that it could be sold at a high price. The sky-high price of 900 million immortal origin stones had already far exceeded Sidu Qing's expectations, and he was extremely satisfied. The reason he asked again was mainly because he was looking at the second heaven box, hoping that the second prince would continue to bid. But what disappointed him was that the second private room fell silent, and the second prince did not make any more bids. In that case, this treasure is sold at 900 million immortal origin stones, and it goes to this esteemed guest. Sidu Qing smiled slightly and announced the final result. The auction continued, and one treasure after another was taken out. Many people bid, and most of them had won something. As time went by, the auction was nearing its end. Everyone's expression became more and more excited and expectant. This was because they all knew that the next item to be auctioned was the final treasure of the Heavenly Law auction. Although the final treasures of each auction were different, what was certain was that they were all incomparably precious. Many people had come for these final treasures. I believe that everyone is looking forward to the final treasure of this auction. That's right, the next item to be auctioned is the 3 final treasures. These 3 treasures have been carefully selected by the Heavenly Law Business Alliance, and they are extremely precious. I'm sure that everyone will not have made this trip in vain. Alright, let's begin the auction of the first final treasure. Sidu Qing smiled slightly and kept everyone in suspense. Celestial light shone brightly in his palm, and a jade box appeared. The jade box exuded a blazing and dazzling brilliance, and it was as dazzling as the sun. It was actually carved from the absolute yang celestial jade, which was rarely seen in 10,000 years. This was a supreme celestial material used to refine a quasi-immortal emperor weapon, and it was extremely precious. However, it was used as a box to store treasures. Everyone was looking forward to the first final treasure. Slowly opening the jade box, bright celestial light gushed out, and auspicious qi filled the air. At the same time, a rich fragrance filled the air, and various mysterious images appeared in the void. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, and endless vitality bloomed, as if billions of living beings were born in an instant. Billions of worlds were born and destroyed, and it looked extremely strange. Is that an emperor-grade celestial elixir? Someone cried out in surprise. His voice was trembling and shocked, and even his breathing became extremely rapid. Everyone was shocked, and they could not help but stand up. A golden celestial elixir floated out of the jade box, and it exuded a powerful and mysterious dragon's might, causing the void to tremble slightly. Real dragon celestial elixir? In heavenly room number 2, Prince Long, who looked indifferent, suddenly stood up. His breathing became rapid, and his eyes were filled with a blazing light. No, it's not a complete real dragon celestial elixir, and its medicinal efficacy has been greatly reduced. It can only be considered a quasi-emperor-grade celestial elixir. Even so, if this quasi-emperor-grade celestial elixir falls into my hands, it will allow me to accumulate an unparalleled foundation and even allow my bloodline to revert to its ancestor. It's not impossible for me to break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Although Prince Long's eyes were filled with disappointment, his body was still trembling with excitement. There was a voice in his heart telling him that he must obtain this celestial elixir. At all costs. Everyone, this is the real dragon celestial elixir. It was originally an emperor-grade elixir, but it was stored in a relic cave for countless eras, and its medicinal efficacy was greatly reduced. Our Heavenly Tao Business Alliance spent a lot of effort to cultivate it and restore its vitality. Now, it's a quasi-emperor-grade celestial elixir. I believe I don't need to say more, and everyone knows its value. The starting price is 100 million celestial source stones. Everyone, please start bidding. Sidu Qing said with a smile, as if he was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. 300 million celestial source stones? In heavenly room number 2, Prince Long was the first to bid, and he was determined to get it. At the same time, his dragon's might overflowed from his body, causing the void to tremble violently. I'm the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley, Prince Long. Please give me some face. Prince Long added indifferently, and there was a hint of threat in his voice. The people on the high platform who wanted to bid hesitated at this moment. Prince Long was extremely famous, and was a famous demon-level genius in the immortal realms. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to offend him. For a moment, no one dared to bid. So what if you're Prince Long? This is the Heavenly Dao auction. The highest bidder will get it. Are you trying to bully others? I bid 500 million celestial source stones. At this moment, a charming lady's voice rang out. The voice came from one of the rooms in the void. Although the voice sounded mysterious, the aura was not inferior to Prince Long's. It seemed like she was also a young genius. This person did not give Prince Long any face and directly bid. This lady is right. The highest bidder will get it. I bid 600 million celestial source stones. In Heavenly Room number 1, Crown Prince Li Wuji also bid. His voice was gentle and elegant, and it gave off a refreshing feeling. At this moment, everyone was slightly shocked. They had almost forgotten that the Crown Prince was also in Heavenly Room number 1. Speaking of which, it was the Crown Prince's first time bidding. Although Ling Xiao had bid a few times for the treasures before, Li Wuji did not bid. They all knew that Crown Prince Li Wuji was planning something big, and his target was probably one of the 3 treasures. I bid 900 million celestial source stones. In Heavenly Dao auction room number 2, Prince Long's expression was extremely cold as he decisively bid a higher price. 1 billion celestial source stones. Crown Prince Li Wuji followed closely behind. 5 billion celestial source stones. The mysterious lady in the room seemed to be very rich. She directly bid 5 billion celestial source stones, showing that she was determined to get the true dragon celestial herb. However, Ling Xiao did not have any intention of bidding. Although a first-grade celestial herb was precious, he had a true supreme-grade celestial herb. The Qilin celestial king was lying at his feet, lazily rolling around. He would occasionally look at the boundary emperor-grade celestial herb in the void with a hint of disdain and mockery. The appearance of this quasi-emperor-grade celestial herb pushed the atmosphere of the auction to another climax. Prince Long, Crown Prince Li Wuji, and the mysterious lady did not give in at all. Soon, the price of the boundary emperor-grade celestial herb had reached an extremely high level. Chapter 34-36. 10 billion immortal source stones. An ethereal voice was heard in the void, raising the price of the true dragon celestial elixir to a sky-high level. At this moment, even the Prince of the Dragon Emperor and the Crown Prince Li Wuji were in disbelief. The person who made the bid was the mysterious girl in the private room. 10 billion immortal source stones had far exceeded the true value of a boundary emperor-grade celestial herb. It was even possible to buy 2 boundary emperor-grade celestial herbs. Although Crown Prince Li Wuji really wanted this true dragon celestial herb, he shook his head with a wry smile and gave up when he saw the ridiculous price. Prince Long's face turned pale, and his eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. The true dragon celestial herb was extremely important to him, as it could allow his bloodline to revert to its ancestor and reach an unprecedented level. However, the mysterious girl had snatched his boundary emperor-grade celestial herb. She was robbing him of his life. His eyes immediately revealed a monstrous killing intent. Who are you? This true dragon celestial herb is extremely important to me. If you're willing to give it to me, I can make you my follower. Prince Long stared at the mysterious private room and said coldly, I'll be your follower. Are you worthy? A mocking voice came from the private room. It was filled with arrogance, as if the person did not take Prince Long seriously. Damn it! In the second skybox, Prince Long was enraged, and a terrifying aura gushed out of him. Your Highness, I'll be grateful if you can help me find out who this person is. Prince Long looked at Second Prince Li Wushuang and said in a cold voice. It shouldn't be a difficult task. However, Brother Long, this girl can easily take out 10 billion immortal source stones. I'm afraid she's not an ordinary person. I advise you not to act rashly until I find out who she is. Li Wushuang's eyes flashed as he said slowly. No matter how noble she is, she's just a descendant of an everlasting family or an immortal sect. How can she be compared to the immemorial royal family? Thank you for your kindness. If I don't kill her after I find out who she is, I won't be able to vent my anger. Prince Long sneered and said viciously, Your Highness, do you know who this woman is? On the other side, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he slowly asked the Crown Prince in the Sky Room 1. I don't know. That woman's background is very mysterious. I've never heard of any young Nine Heavens Supremes coming to the Fortune Immortal Court. However, after the auction is over, I will ask the people of the Heavenly Dao Business Union about it, and I should be able to find out. Crown Prince Li Wuji shook his head. He was also very curious. To be able to take out tens of billions of immortal origin stones so easily, this person's identity was most likely no small matter. Maybe he was one of those so-called inheritors of the forbidden areas. Or rather, those powerful young paragons of the central immortal domain. In the end, the true dragon celestial herb was sold for a sky-high price of 10 billion immortal origin stones. This made the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance's elder, Siduqing, grin from ear to ear. His eyes were filled with excitement. The true dragon celestial elixir had indeed made the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance rich. Now, let's move on to the second item of the auction. Siduqing cleared his throat, looked at the crowd, and continued speaking. Light flickered in Siduqing's palm. Immortal light lingered, and an ancient stone statue with a blurry face appeared. It was as black as ink. The stone statue looked to be only 3 feet tall, but it contained a strange demonic power. It made people feel as if their minds were about to be completely sucked into it when they looked at it. Everyone's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. They did not see anything extraordinary about this stone statue. Apart from its strange aura, it did not look like any of the treasures that were auctioned before. They did not know why this stone statue could be the final item of the auction, and why the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance took it out so seriously. Everyone, perhaps you are very confused. What kind of treasure is this? This is a special treasure that my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance brought back from the No Man's Land. Back then, for this treasure, my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance lost 9 immortal kings, and even a quasi-heavenly emperor. As soon as Siduqing's voice fell, it immediately caused the crowd to boil. A stone statue that looks very ancient was actually able to cause the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance to lose a quasi-immortal emperor and 9 immortal kings. It can be seen that the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance was really determined to obtain this treasure. It seems like this stone statue is really extraordinary. Everyone secretly guessed. However, they were even more curious. What kind of treasure was this ancient stone statue? The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had paid such a high price, so why would they take it out now? Everyone must be very curious. Why would my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance take it out for auction? It's because even the quasi-immortal emperors of my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance are unable to analyze the secret of this stone statue. However, one thing is certain. This stone statue is related to the inheritance of an immortal emperor. If we can solve the secret of this stone statue, we might be able to obtain the complete inheritance of an immortal emperor. That's the supreme path to the immortal emperor realm. Don't you think this item is precious? Siduqing smiled slightly. His words immediately caused everyone to tremble. Their breathing quickened, and their eyes were filled with incomparable passion. It was related to the inheritance of an immortal emperor. It should be known that the so-called immortal emperors were all the strongest in the eternal celestial realm. They ruled over 10,000 miles of territory, were invincible, and had suppressed an era. They were amazing to the extreme. Being able to become an immortal emperor meant that they could establish an eternal celestial court or an immortal emperor clan. What kind of glory was that? An immortal emperor represented invincibility and the strongest. Although the quasi-immortal emperors and immortal emperors were only one realm apart, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Even if there were hundreds or thousands of quasi-immortal emperors, it would be difficult for them to be a match for an immortal emperor. They were no longer on the same level. An immortal emperor controlled the eternal Heavenly Dao, and his strength was incomparably powerful. It was not something that ordinary celestial kings or quasi-immortal emperors could contend against. Sidu Qing was very satisfied with the expressions on everyone's faces. After looking around at the crowd, he slowly said, "This black stone statue is auctioned with heavenly Tao source crystals instead of immortal source stones. The starting price is 10 heavenly Tao source crystals. 100 heavenly Tao source crystals." As soon as Sidu Qing finished speaking, a resolute and decisive voice resounded in the venue of the heavenly law auction. That voice was filled with determination to obtain the item. Everyone was slightly taken aback. They suddenly realized that the person who made the bid was the mysterious young lady who had competed with Prince Long for the true dragon celestial herb. Everyone was also extremely shocked. They did not expect the mysterious young lady to be so wealthy that she could directly take out 100 heavenly Tao source crystals. One should know that the heavenly Tao source crystal was extremely precious. It was a strange crystal that contained the eternal heavenly Tao origin energy. Its value was immeasurable. Heavenly Tao source crystals would only appear in places where the heavenly Tao origin energy was born or in some ancient mystery realms. After a quasi-immortal emperor or celestial emperor died, the surrounding area would be filled with eternal heavenly Tao runes. It was possible that the heavenly Tao source crystals would be born there. From this, one could see how precious the heavenly Tao source crystals were. According to the exchange rate, 100 million immortal source stones could be exchanged for one heavenly Tao source crystal. However, in reality, those who owned the heavenly Tao source crystal would never exchange it for immortal source stones. That was because the immortal source stones might be quite useful to celestial kings. However, for quasi-immortal emperors or celestial emperors, they had to use the heavenly Tao source crystals to cultivate. Therefore, if one were to exchange it on the market, one heavenly Tao source crystal could be exchanged for 200 to 300 million immortal source stones. Very few people would be willing to do so. However, the mysterious young lady had just opened her mouth and bid 100 heavenly Tao source crystals. That was almost equivalent to 20 to 30 billion immortal source stones. It would be difficult to find someone who was so wealthy in the entire creation immortal court. In the void, in a private room, a young lady who was about 20 years old and wearing a red dress sat on a huge crystal chair. Her face was incomparably beautiful. She looked extremely perfect, as if she was the masterpiece of the Creator. On her body, there was both the innocence of a young girl and the majesty of an emperor. She was shrouded in a mysterious radiance. She looked high and mighty, like a supreme goddess from the 9 heavens. One look at her and one could not help but feel the urge to worship her. Behind the young lady in the red dress stood an old man with white hair and a white beard. He held a walking stick in his hand. If one did not look at him with the naked eye, they would not be able to detect any trace of him. It was as if he did not exist in this space-time. His strength was unfathomable. "Little princess, I'm afraid they will know that this is a good thing. When the time comes, they will inevitably use up a lot of heavenly Tao source crystals." The old man smiled bitterly and said helplessly, "Grandpa Tree, that is the divine statue of the Radiance Immortal Emperor. Even if you give it to them, they won't be able to unravel its secrets. Didn't you see that even the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance had to pay such a huge price to auction it? Only I, who have the Radiance Sovereign Physique, can unravel its secrets. When I get the Radiance Immortal Emperor's inheritance and return to the Radiance Immortal Court, I will definitely give my brother, the Crown Prince, a good beating." The young lady in the red dress said proudly and confidently. It turned out that her true identity was the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, Di Honglun. This name was known by everyone in the Central Immortal Domain. Legend had it that the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, Bai Honglun, was born with 9 suns in the sky. Endless radiance shrouded the Radiance Immortal Court. Auspicious energy rose and purple energy spread for 10,000 miles. All kinds of mysterious phenomena appeared. It turned out that the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, Di Honglun, had the legendary Radiance Sovereign Physique. The Radiance Sovereign Physique was a supreme physique that was on par with the Radiance Chaotic Physique. The crown prince of the Radiance Immortal Court had the Radiance chaotic physique. Therefore, Di Hongwan and the crown prince of the Radiance Immortal Court were known as the two peerless prides of the Radiance Immortal Court. At the same time, Di Hongwan was extremely beautiful. She was one of the top 10 fairies in the central immortal domain. Countless young primes, peerless geniuses, and even the descendants of the everlasting families and undying beings were infatuated with her. Di Hongwan left the Radiance Immortal Court and came to the Creation Immortal Court because she heard about the Radiance Immortal Emperor's inheritance and followed him all the way here. The black stone statue at the auction was her real target this time, so she was determined to get it. She had to get it. Chapter 34-37. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he let out a soft exclamation of surprise in the sky room 1. Although the black stone statue on the high platform looked a little strange, the world tree in Ling Zhao's mind trembled slightly, and one of its leaves shone brightly. Vaguely, Ling Zhao felt as though he could see through the black stone statue's skin and see the essence of the stone statue. Boundless light bloomed from the black stone statue as if it had given birth to millions of radiant worlds in an instant. A figure with a terrifying aura stood in the middle of the countless radiant worlds as if he was the god of the radiant world, worshipped by millions of radiant beings. His aura was mysterious and unfathomable. His finger was sparkling and translucent, and it seemed to be vaguely pointing in an unknown and unfamiliar direction. Boundless light. Could this be a stone statue left behind by the radiant immortal emperor? It seems like the place that the figure is pointing to might be the inheritance of the radiant immortal emperor. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he made up his mind. He had to win the bid for this black stone statue. Senior Ling Zhao, I'm almost certain that the person in the box is a big shot from the Celestial Court. I just don't know which Celestial Court person has come to our Fortune Immortal City. Li Wuji's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Someone from the Celestial Court? So what? This is the venue of the Heavenly Law auction. The highest bidder wins. Your Highness, that stone statue is obviously not an ordinary item. Are you not going to bid for it? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Bid for it? Senior Ling Zhao, I only have a few dozen Heavenly Law source crystals in total. I have to keep them for my own cultivation. How can I compete with her? Li Wuji smiled bitterly as a light flashed in his palm. A crystal the size of a cobblestone appeared. It was surrounded by celestial light and emitted a mysterious Taoist rhyme as if it contained the eternal Heavenly Law origin. It was obviously not an ordinary item. Is this the Heavenly Law source crystal? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a strange expression. He had many celestial origin stones, but he did not have any Heavenly Law source crystals. His original intention was to use immortal origin stones to exchange for some Heavenly Tao source crystals from Crown Prince Li Wuji and then try to bid for the stone statue. However, when he saw the crystal in Crown Prince Li Wuji's hand, his expression turned strange. That's right, this is a Heavenly Tao origin crystal. It contains the quintessence energy of the eternal Heavenly Tao, and it's extremely precious. It can be used by quasi-immortal emperors and immortal emperors to cultivate. Even I don't have many. However, if Senior Ling Zhao needs it, perhaps I can take some out and give it to you. Li Wuji nodded and said, if this is the Heavenly Tao origin crystal, I might still have some in stock. It should be enough to auction off this stone statue. Ling Zhao smiled faintly. He suddenly recalled that when the Your Wilds world had been promoted to an Everworld, it had been blessed by the eternal Heavenly Tao essence. Boundless Heavenly Tao essence power had descended, forming countless such crystals in the Your Wilds world. There were hundreds of thousands of them. When Ling Zhao left the Your Wilds world and headed to the eternal immortal domain, he had brought these crystals with him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break through from the first heaven of the Immortal King realm to the peak of the ninth heaven of the Immortal King realm in such a short time. The main reason for this was that he had a large number of Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Now, he had more than 100,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals, neatly arranged in his pocket world. If this was the Heavenly Tao origin crystal, then Ling Xiao was probably a tycoon. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji could not compare to him. When the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, Di Hongluan, bid 100 Heavenly Tao origin crystals, some people saw the value of the stone statue and raised the price several times. However, no matter how high the bids were, Di Hongluan continued to bid, as if she was determined to win. In the end, some people gave up. The price of the black stone statue was raised to 300 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Grandpa Tree, no one will dare to compete with me for the radiant stone statue now. In the private room, Di Hongluan's red and blue eyes were filled with pride. She revealed a childlike craftiness as she spoke to the elder beside her. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a calm and indifferent voice suddenly rang out. I bid 1,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Ling Xiao shouted. In the private room, Di Hongluan's face instantly turned extremely ugly. She had just said that no one would compete with her for the radiant stone statue. Unexpectedly, someone made a bid in the next moment. Moreover, it was a sky-high price of 1,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Damn it, who is it? How dare he compete with me? If I find out, I will definitely smash his head. Di Hongluan pouted and said angrily. That voice seems to be coming from Crown Prince Li Wuji's private room. Isn't that the person who competed with Prince Long and True Phoenix for the treasure just now? Ling Xiao? Di Hongluan's eyes flashed as she spoke through gritted teeth. Her goal was the radiant stone statue, so she could not give up no matter what. At this moment, she was practically clenching her teeth and bidding. I bid 1,100 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Di Hongluan's voice rang out from the private room. However, from this voice, everyone could hear a hint of gnashing teeth. It seemed that the mysterious girl was very unhappy with Ling Xiao. 2,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Ling Xiao's voice was very calm as he continued to bid. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Those were Heavenly Tao origin crystals, which contain the eternal Heavenly Tao origin energy. 2,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals, in terms of real value, were equivalent to 200 billion celestial origin stones. Who exactly was Ling Xiao? How could he be so wealthy? At this moment, even Di Hongluan was shocked. She did not expect that in this remote celestial realm, there would be someone more generous than her. 2,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals were taken out just like that. Grandpa Tree, what should I do? I only have 3,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. I feel like I can't protect the radiant stone statue today. Di Hongluan looked at the elder beside her and said anxiously. Little princess, I still have 2,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals here. You can take them. The elder smiled bitterly. He did not expect that in the creation celestial court, there would be someone who could take out 2,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals so casually. No, Grandpa Tree, I can't use your Heavenly Tao origin crystals. I want to see who exactly this guy is, to actually dare to snatch something from this princess. I bid 3,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Di Hongluan gritted her teeth and continued to bid. This time, she had practically emptied her pockets and brought out all the Heavenly Way source crystals she had. Her goal was to frighten Ling Xiao so that he would not dare to bid again. However, she was still disappointed in the end. 5,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Ling Xiao directly called out a sky-high price. In an instant, everyone was shocked and excited. 5,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Apart from the Emperor Lord of the Creation Celestial Court, who else could take out such a huge amount of wealth? Those were Heavenly Tao origin crystals, treasures that contain the power of the Heavenly Tao. Even a quasi-celestial emperor could not easily take out thousands of Heavenly Tao origin crystals. It's over, it's over. The light stone statue has been snatched by this damn bastard. Di Hongluan sat on the crystal chair, her eyes filled with disappointment and unwillingness. At this moment, even with the 2,000 Heavenly Tao origin crystals that Grandpa Tree had given her, she could not buy the light stone statue. However, her heart was filled with unwillingness, and she firmly remembered Ling Xiao's name. Little princess, don't worry. After the auction is over, I will personally help you obtain the light stone statue. Then, we will directly leave the creation's celestial court. The elder said slowly to Di Hongluan. Snatch it? That's a good idea. Grandpa Tree, capture that Ling Xiao for me. How dare he snatch my things? I will definitely teach him a lesson. Di Hongluan gritted her teeth at the thought of Ling Xiao. 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals. Is there anyone else who wants to continue bidding? Situ Qing was also extremely shocked. 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals was not a small amount to him. He had originally thought that the stone statue could be auctioned for 400 to 500 heavenly Tao origin crystals. However, he did not expect that it would be auctioned for 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals. At this moment, he was overjoyed. Situ Qing pretended to ask a few questions. After seeing that no one else wanted to bid, he finally announced that the black stone statue belonged to Ling Xiao. Senior Ling Xiao, I did not expect you to be the one who hid your strength so well. 5,000 heavenly Tao origin crystals just like that. Crown Prince Li Wuji also sighed softly. However, when he thought of the rumors about Ling Xiao, he could not help but be moved. If that's the case, Ling Xiao must have really obtained the inheritance of the Origin Celestial Emperor. Perhaps these heavenly Tao source crystals were obtained from the Origin Celestial Emperor's place of inheritance? Crown Prince Li Wuji thought to himself. Next is the final supreme treasure. Situ Qing smiled slightly. Light flashed in his palm, and a dazzling golden box appeared. After opening the box, a 2-story pagoda with black light emanating from it appeared. It looked a little strange. At this moment, Li Wuji and Li Wushuang both trembled and stood up at the same time. Their eyes were filled with excitement and determination to get it. This treasure was their goal this time. It was also the supreme treasure that they had to obtain at all costs. This was because this was the fragment of the eternal emperor weapon of the creation's celestial court's ancestor. Although it did not seem to be very valuable, it had a special meaning to the creation's celestial court. Both Li Wuji and Li Wushuang wanted to take back this treasure and return it to the creation's celestial court's ancestral land. The final supreme treasure is the supreme imperial weapon of the creation's celestial emperor, a fragment of the primordial fortune pagoda. It's also the largest fragment. I don't need to say more about its value. The starting price is 10 billion immortal origin stones. Everyone, please bid freely. Situ Qing smiled slightly. His eyes were filled with deep meaning as he looked at the heavenly number 1 and heavenly number 2 rooms. 30 billion immortal origin stones. In the heavenly number 1 room, Crown Prince Li Wuji was the first to bid. 50 billion immortal origin stones. Li Wushuang was not to be outdone. He followed closely behind and bid. 80 billion immortal origin stones. 100 billion immortal origin stones. 150 billion immortal origin stones. Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang seemed to have put in a lot of effort. They were determined to obtain it and began to bid crazily. The entire Heavenly Law auction seemed to have become Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's personal performance. Chapter 34-38. The competition between Li Wuji and Li Wushuang was not only a competition between the Crown Prince and Second Prince, but also a competition between the two strongest factions in the creation immortal court. The experts on the high platform all knew the significance of the primordial blessings tower fragment. Therefore, no one dared to bid for it. Only Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's voices continued to ring out in the auction hall. The two of them did not give in, and soon, the price of the primordial fortune tower fragment had reached an astronomical figure. 500 billion immortal origin stones. Second Prince Li Wushuang said decisively. This was a fragment of the primordial fortune tower. The primordial fortune tower was the eternal emperor artifact of the creation immortal emperor and held an extraordinary significance to the creation immortal court. If Li Wushuang could bring back the primordial fortune tower fragment, perhaps the position of Crown Prince would be moved. Crown Prince Li Wuji's expression was somewhat ugly in the number 1 skybox. He had only brought 500 billion immortal origin stones this time, and his goal was to obtain the primordial fortune tower fragment. However, he had not expected Li Wushuang to be so rich and overbearing. He had shouted out 500 billion immortal origin stones without even blinking. "Senior Ling Xiao, can you lend me some heavenly Dao source crystals? I will definitely repay you in the future. However, if Senior Ling Xiao does not have any heavenly Dao source crystals, then forget it." Crown Prince Li Wuji said to Ling Xiao with difficulty. His eyes were filled with embarrassment. This time, he had originally planned to rope in Ling Xiao. He even thought that if he encountered any treasures that Ling Xiao liked in the Heavenly Law auction, he would help Ling Xiao bid for them. However, he had not expected Ling Xiao to be so rich and overbearing. He had taken out Heavenly Dao source crystals just like that. Now, he even had to ask Ling Xiao to lend him some Heavenly Dao source crystals. "No problem. How many Heavenly Dao source crystals does your highness need? Is 10,000 enough?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said indifferently. Crown Prince Li Wuji was somewhat shocked. He had been extremely nervous, not knowing if Ling Xiao had any more Heavenly Dao source crystals to lend him. However, he had not expected Ling Xiao to agree so readily and offer 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals right off the bat. This completely stunned him. Enough. Senior Ling Xiao, thank you for your generosity. Wuji will never forget your kindness. Li Wuji's eyes were filled with gratitude. Then, as if he had made a decision, he gritted his teeth and took out a piece of flawless white jade from his storage space, passing it to Ling Xiao. "Senior Ling Xiao, this is one of the 3 supreme sword arts of the eternal immortal domains, the heaven-punishing Dao slaying art. This was a peerless sword art comparable to a peerless immortal emperor's taboo art. Although it was incomplete, its value was immeasurable. It was equivalent to 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals. Now, I'll give it to Senior Ling Xiao." Crown Prince Li Wuji said resolutely. "Heaven-punishing Dao slaying formula?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed, revealing a trace of shock. He had never imagined that Li Wuji would have such a supreme treasure in his hands. The heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation was one of the 3 boundless sword arts of the eternal immortal domains. According to legend, when cultivated to the pinnacle, one could slay an immortal emperor. There was no reason for Ling Xiao to refuse the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation. Although it was an incomplete version of the heaven-destroying Dao formula, it was enough for him to comprehend the supreme way of the sword. Then, he could integrate it into his body and strengthen his foundation. If he could successfully cultivate the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation, he would have another trump card. Then, as an immortal king, it would be easy for him to kill a quasi-immortal emperor. "Many thanks, Your Highness. This heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation is of great use to me. I can't take advantage of you for free. Take 20,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals as my payment for the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation." Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he took out another 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals and handed them to Li Wuji. "In that case, I'll accept them." Li Wuji nodded, but at the same time, he felt that it was a pity. Although 20,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals were priceless, he had hoped that Ling Xiao would owe him a favor. Ling Xiao had used 20,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals to purchase the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation because he didn't want to owe anyone a favor. Li Wuji vaguely felt that a favor from Ling Xiao was much more valuable than the heaven-punishing Dao-slaying incantation. 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals. Li Wuji's voice was extremely calm in Heaven Room Number 1. However, it was like a thunderclap that exploded on the high platform. In Heaven Room Number 2, Li Wushuang's face turned pale. He had spent almost all of his savings to bid 500 billion celestial origin stones. When he saw that Li Wuji had not bid for a long time in Heaven Room Number 1, he had thought that the primordial fortune pagoda fragment was already in his pocket. However, he had not expected Li Wuji to bid 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals in the blink of an eye. The value of 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals was equivalent to 2 trillion celestial origin stones or even more. He glanced at Prince Dragon Emperor and True Phoenix Maiden beside him. Although she was unhappy that Ling Xiao had snatched her radiant stone statue, she did not like the second prince. Moreover, she did not have 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals. Li Wushuang had asked to borrow 10,000 heavenly Dao source crystals. Wasn't he humiliating her? Di Hongluan naturally did not treat him well. Li Wushuang's face was livid, and his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent after failing to borrow the heavenly Dao source crystals and being scolded by Di Hongluan. Devil Master, check her background for me. If I find out who she is, don't blame me for being rude. Li Wushuang's voice was bone-chilling. In the end, he chose to give up. Sidu Qing was stunned at this moment. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had taken out the fragment of the primordial fortune pagoda and auctioned it in the Creation Immortal City to ruthlessly extort a sum of money from the Creation Immortal Court. However, he did not expect that a mere fragment of an Eternal Emperor artifact could be auctioned for 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals. Today's harvest was too great. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance had earned a lot. Sidu Qing did not hesitate and immediately announced the result. The fragment of the primordial fortune pagoda was won by Crown Prince Li Wuji for 10,000 Heavenly Dao source crystals. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this Heavenly Dao auction. I also hope that everyone can bid for the treasures that they like. Today's auction ends here. We will meet again if fate wills it. Situ Xing smiled and announced the end of the Heavenly Dao auction. Following that, the Heavenly Dao auction's experts went to the various private rooms to settle the accounts with the experts who had won the auction. This time, Ling Xiao had obtained the Eternal Flame Essence and the Light Stone statue. It could be considered a great harvest. As for Crown Prince Li Wuji, he had also obtained the fragment of the Primordial Fortune Pagoda. One could imagine that as long as he handed it over to the Fortune Emperor Lord, his position as the Crown Prince would become even more secure. Ling Xiao, get out here. Hand over the Eternal Fire Essence or die. At this moment, an incomparably cold voice rang out. Blazing flames rose and a wave of killing intent enveloped the room. It was the true Phoenix Maiden. The true Phoenix Maiden's face was incomparably cold, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. She was not willing to let Ling Xiao snatch the Eternal Fire Essence away. Therefore, when she heard that the auction had ended, she immediately made things difficult for Ling Xiao. Chapter 34-39. The Eternal Fire Essence was extremely important to the true Phoenix Maiden. Not only could it allow her bloodline to revert to its ancestral state, but it could also give her a chance to comprehend a trace of the Fire Heavenly Dao origin and even break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. This was a great opportunity, so she naturally wasn't willing to give it up so easily. To others, the Eternal Fire Essence might only be a slightly more precious origin source treasure. But to the true Phoenix Maiden, it was extremely important. She was extremely arrogant. The reason why she didn't make things difficult for Ling Xiao immediately was because she was afraid of the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance. Now that the Heavenly Dao auction had just ended, she immediately made things difficult for Ling Xiao. This Eternal Fire Essence is a treasure that I obtained from the auction. Why should I give it to you? How dare you boast so shamelessly? If you want to die, I'll accompany you. Ling Xiao sneered coldly. The true Phoenix Maiden opposite him was a descendant of the immemorial royal family. She was extremely talented and had reached the peak of the 9th heaven of the immortal king realm, just like Ling Xiao. Many young geniuses were even willing to become her followers. She had long developed an arrogant and condescending temperament. But Ling Xiao didn't intend to spoil her. Ling Xiao, the Eternal Fire Essence is useless to you. Aren't you going against me by taking away the Eternal Fire Gold? If you know what's good for you, hand over the Eternal Fire Essence obediently. I can give you 1 billion immortal origin stones. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The true Phoenix Maiden's eyes were extremely cold as she spoke in a cold voice. She was determined to obtain the Eternal Fire Essence. True Phoenix Maiden, this is the Creation Immortal Court, not your true Phoenix Nest. This is not a place where you can behave atrociously. Senior Ling Xiao is my esteemed guest. If you attack him, you'll be my enemy and my Creation Immortal Court's enemy. Crown Prince Li Wuji glanced at the true Phoenix Maiden indifferently. Ling Xiao was his esteemed guest, so he naturally didn't want to see the true Phoenix Maiden being so arrogant. At this moment, the second Prince Li Wushuang smiled slightly and said, "My good brother, although you're the Crown Prince, when can you represent the creation immortal court and Lord Father? The true Phoenix Maiden is my esteemed guest." This Ling Xiao offended her, so why can't he take out the eternal fire essence as an apology? "My good big brother, you wouldn't offend the true Phoenix Maiden and the ancient imperial family because of this strange person, right? So what if you're from the ancient imperial family? This is the human territory, the capital city of the Fortune Immortal Court. Furthermore, Senior Ling Xiao is my esteemed guest." Fellow Taoist True Phoenix, you have a noble status, and you should keep yourself clean. Why are you doing such a thing? Aren't you being too arrogant and despotic? Crown Prince Li Wuji said coldly. "Today, the eternal fire essence is mine." The true Phoenix Maiden's gaze was incomparably cold. Unexpectedly, she was incomparably insistent. She directly blocked Ling Xiao's path. Rumble! Blazing flames rose around her body, emitting a resplendent glow. In the endless sea of fire, there seemed to be a mysterious shadow of a phoenix. Every flame seemed to be able to burn down a part of the world. Its aura was terrifying to the extreme. "I'm sorry, but even if you gave me 10 billion or 100 billion, I still wouldn't give you the eternal flame essence." Ling Xiao sneered as if he did not care about the true Phoenix Maiden at all. The eternal flame essence was of great use to the true Phoenix Maiden, but it was also of great use to Ling Xiao. He could use it to nourish the world tree in his primordial spirit. The world tree was a strange existence that could communicate with the eternal heavenly Tao origin. When the world tree was completely mature, it would be able to evolve a complete eternal heavenly Tao. At that time, he could use it to break through to the immortal emperor realm in one fell swoop. Moreover, even if he could not use the eternal flame essence, given the true Phoenix Maiden's arrogant and despotic personality, he would not hand it over. "Since you're unwilling to hand over the eternal flame essence, let's fight. If I win, I won't kill you. I'll only cripple your cultivation. However, you must hand over the eternal flame essence." The true Phoenix Maiden said coldly. Her voice was filled with a kind of arrogance. It was as if not killing Ling Xiao, but only crippling his cultivation, was already a great gift. "What if you lose?" Ling Xiao sneered. "I won't lose. I'm invincible below the subimmortal realm." The true Phoenix Maiden's voice was indifferent, but it was filled with strong fluctuations of confidence. "If you lose, I won't kill you. You'll be my maid and serve me well." Ling Xiao sneered. "You're courting death." The true Phoenix Maiden's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Instantly, her palm pressed down on Ling Xiao. Blazing flames surged, forming a world of fire in an instant. It was ferocious to the extreme. Crown Prince Li Wuji's face turned cold. He did not expect the true Phoenix Maiden to be so arrogant and despotic. She did not even give him face. He was about to step in and block the strong enemy for Ling Xiao when the second Prince Li Wushuang stepped in front of him and blocked his way. "My good big brother, what are you doing now? This is a battle between the two of them. It has nothing to do with the creation immortal court. Why don't you and I watch this battle?" Li Wushuang smiled faintly, but he showed no signs of backing down. It was as if Li Wuji did not agree, he would attack Li Wuji. "Good, very good. Wushuang, your talent is extraordinary, and your future is limitless. However, you should not ignore the interests of the creation immortal court. After today, I will go see my father and report what happened today to him." Li Wuji's face was extremely cold. He glanced indifferently at Li Wushuang, but he did not continue to attack. Crown Prince Li Wuji was full of confidence in Ling Xiao. After all, he had killed 4 celestial kings with a single sword strike. He had even killed a quasi-immortal emperor. His strength was unparalleled. Even if he really fought with the true Phoenix Maiden, Ling Xiao would not be in any danger. Instead, the true Phoenix Maiden should be the one worried. Rumble! Chaotic light rose around Ling Xiao, and immortal qi lingered around him. His eyes were incomparably sharp as he faced the flames in the sky and punched out. Crack! It was as if heaven and earth were breaking apart. The void shook violently, and the endless flames were shattered and scattered by Ling Zhao's punch. Ling Zhao's punch did not lose its momentum. It was as fierce as a blazing thunderbolt as it pressed down on the true Phoenix Maiden. The true Phoenix Maiden's eyes were incomparably sharp, and golden light shone around her. Behind her, chi and blood surged. Vaguely, there seemed to be a flaming phoenix that appeared, exuding an ancient and mysterious pressure. As the true Phoenix Maiden pointed her sword, the sharp finger lights seemed to be able to shatter everything. At the same time, the flaming phoenix pounced towards Ling Zhao. The phoenix seemed to be the first true phoenix of the true phoenix nest. It exuded an incomparably terrifying pressure, and in an instant, it collided with Ling Zhao's fist. Rumble! Flames surged violently. If this was not a small world opened up by the Heavenly Law Business Alliance, this attack would have been able to shatter billions of voids. Ling Zhao and the true Phoenix Maiden were both geniuses at the peak of the ninth heaven of the Immortal King realm. Their combat strength was unparalleled, and both of them had the combat strength of a quasi-immortal emperor. Therefore, the battle between the two of them immediately became extremely intense. Rumble! Endless lightning rose around Ling Zhao's body, and divine chains of laws intertwined. He looked mysterious and unfathomable. It made him seem like a chaotic immortal demon that was born, and he contained endless power. He punched down again, and this time, it was even more ferocious than the previous punch. It directly blasted the flaming phoenix into pieces. Then, without losing its momentum, it collided with the true Phoenix Maiden like a bolt of lightning. Crack! It was as if 10,000 bolts of lightning struck at the same time. The true Phoenix Maiden's body shook violently as if she had collided with an ancient divine mountain. Her bones were about to fall apart, and she was suddenly sent flying. Her eyes were filled with incomparable shock. She had never thought that Ling Zhao's combat strength would be so terrifying. His physical strength was even stronger than hers. Was this still the incomparably weak human race? As the successor of the true Phoenix Nest, she had actually lost to Ling Zhao in terms of physical strength. This was simply a great humiliation. Kill! The true Phoenix Maiden suddenly roared. Blazing golden light rose from her palm, and a flaming immortal sword appeared. Sword chi swept across, and the void shook as if it could destroy everything. This was an extremely terrifying quasi-immortal emperor weapon, and it was also the true Phoenix Maiden's natal immortal weapon. It was called the Sky-Burning Sword. With the Sky-Burning Sword in her hand, the true Phoenix Maiden's aura became increasingly fierce, as if she had transformed into a primordial true phoenix. Hundreds of millions of sword lights swept across the sky like a storm and slashed toward Ling Zhao. Break! Ling Zhao also roared. The sky-swallowing sword appeared, and the incomparably sharp sword light instantly shot up into the sky. The sky-swallowing sword buzzed as if it was extremely spiritual. Strands of laws, orders, and divine chains intertwined. Hundreds of millions of sword lights swept across the void, as if they could shatter hundreds of millions of civilizations, shatter countless laws of truth, and turn into the origin of all things, the end of the world. It contained an extremely terrifying and eternal heavenly way aura. This was the most powerful sword of the three swords of origin. The Origin Sword. This sword seemed to be able to annihilate all things, shatter the world, and become the origin of all living beings in the heavens. It was extremely dazzling, and everyone present could not help but turn pale. Their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. This was because they recognized that this was a supreme secret technique, a forbidden killing technique created by an immortal emperor expert. It was extremely powerful. True Phoenix Boundless Sword Chi. The true Phoenix Maiden suddenly shouted and also displayed a powerful emperor technique. The sky-burning sword light surged and blazed to the extreme. In an instant, it collided with Ling Zhao's sky-swallowing sword. Crack! The two sword lights, as if they were going to burn the sky and destroy the world, enveloped this small world, and the aura was incomparably terrifying. However, in the end, Everyone found that the sword that represented the origin of all things suppressed the heavens and was extremely sharp. It actually destroyed the true phoenix's phantoms that filled the sky, and then ruthlessly slashed the true phoenix maiden's body. The true phoenix maiden suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face instantly turned pale. Her entire body flew out as if she had been struck by lightning and crashed heavily on the ground in the distance. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. She had lost. Chapter 3440. The True Phoenix Maiden was the successor of the True Phoenix Nest. The True Phoenix Nest was one of the top clans in the immemorial royal family. Therefore, her status was extremely noble. She wasn't any weaker than Crown Prince Li Wuji. Rumor had it that the ancestor of the True Phoenix Nest, the True Phoenix Immortal Emperor, hadn't died. He had just fallen into a deep sleep. Therefore, even the people of the Immortal Court didn't want to provoke the True Phoenix Nest. No one had thought that the True Phoenix Maiden would be defeated by Ling Xiao so quickly. This Ling Xiao is a bit interesting. He's only at the peak of the 9th heaven of the Immortal King realm, but he defeated the True Phoenix Maiden so easily. It seems that his true combat strength should be able to fight against a half-immortal emperor. Among the spectators, Di Hongwan's eyes flashed with a green light. She looked at Ling Xiao with interest. "Little princess, you're right. This Ling Xiao is indeed not simple. His physical body is extremely strong. It's actually not weaker than the immemorial royal family. He's condensed it to the level of a body of laws. It seems that he must have refined many heavenly path source crystals and has an extremely deep understanding of the eternal heavenly path. His foundation is extremely deep. He has the potential of an immortal emperor." The white-haired elder beside Di Hongwan said slowly. Hearing Grandpa Tree's words, Di Hongwan was a bit surprised. She didn't think that Grandpa Tree would have such a high opinion of Ling Xiao. Grandpa Tree was an extremely ancient figure. He was born in the Antiquity Age. He was even older than many immortal emperors. Although he was only a half-immortal emperor, his strength was unfathomable. In the past, Grandpa Tree had only said that the peerless geniuses of the Immortal Court were passable. Even her amazing brother, the Crown Prince of the Light Immortal Court, who had the light chaotic body, was only very likely to have a glimpse of the immortal emperor realm. Now, Di Hongwan listened to Grandpa Tree's evaluation. He didn't hide his admiration for Ling Xiao at all. He seemed to be even better than her brother, who had light chaotic body. This made Di Hongwan more curious about Ling Xiao. "Ling Xiao, you're courting death." The True Phoenix Maiden roared. Her eyes were filled with monstrous anger. Rumble. Murderous intent rose around her. An ancient and mysterious power seemed to explode in her body. The mysterious True Phoenix flames lingered around her as if they wanted to burn this small world. She was completely enraged. As the successor of the True Phoenix Nest, she had actually been defeated so easily by Ling Xiao. This was not only a personal humiliation, but also a humiliation to the entire True Phoenix Nest. She had to fight to the death to protect the glory of the True Phoenix Nest. "If you want to die, then go ahead," Ling Xiao said indifferently. The sky-swallowing sword in his hand emitted a sharp light. A sharp and chilling murderous intent locked onto the real Phoenix Lady. There was no fear in his eyes. It was as if the True Phoenix Maiden dared to attack again, he would immediately kill her. The Crown Prince Li Wuji and the Second Prince Li Wushuang both wore unpleasant expressions. However, what they were considering was different. Crown Prince Li Wuji felt that if a True Phoenix Maiden were to die in the Celestial Court of Creation, it would be a huge problem for the unstable Celestial Court of Creation. The Second Prince, Li Wushuang, had not expected the True Phoenix Maiden to be so easily defeated by Ling Xiao. It would be even more difficult to deal with Ling Xiao in the heavenly ancient battlefield. Boom! Ling Xiao and the True Phoenix Maiden's auras collided in the void. The void trembled violently as if it would be torn apart at any time. Kacha! At this moment, a mysterious and ancient aura erupted, causing the void to tremble slightly. A A handsome young man in a white robe instantly appeared between Ling Xiao and the true Phoenix Maiden. He exuded an aura like a spring breeze, as if it contained an incomparably rich vitality. The surrounding damaged land quickly recovered its vitality, causing flowers and trees to grow rapidly. The confrontation between Ling Xiao and the true Phoenix Maiden was also resolved in an instant. Gentlemen, this is the pocket world created by the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. If you fight to the death here, won't this pocket world be completely destroyed? The white-robed young man said with a faint smile. Ling Xiao and the true Phoenix Maiden could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. They had discovered that the white-robed young man in front of them was an extremely powerful quasi-immortal emperor. Moreover, he had easily resolved their attacks. It seemed like he was not as simple as a quasi-immortal emperor. At the very least, he was a mid-late quasi-immortal emperor. His strength was unfathomable, and he was not someone they could contend against. Moreover, although the white-robed young man looked young, his eyes were deep and filled with vicissitudes of time as if they contained the vicissitudes of time and space. He was most likely an old monster who had lived for countless years. Greetings, great elder life. When the crown prince Li Wuji and the second prince Li Wushuang saw this person, they bowed and greeted him respectfully. Both of them knew the white-robed young man's true identity. He was the true ruler of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance in the Fortune Immortal City. Legend had it that he was a supreme figure whose cultivation had reached the peak of the quasi-immortal emperor and was proficient in the great Tao of life. Therefore, he was also known as the Great Elder Life. Your Highnesses, you don't have to be so courteous. If these two distinguished guests want to determine the winner, I have a way. I wonder if the two of you are willing to listen to me? Great Elder Life said with a faint smile. What is it? The true Phoenix Maiden said indifferently. Although she wanted to attack Ling Xiao immediately, she did not dare to be presumptuous in the presence of this powerful quasi-immortal emperor. The origin of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance was very mysterious, and its strength was unfathomable. It was even more powerful than the Fortune Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court. Even the immemorial royal family was not willing to provoke the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. It just so happens that the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance has an origin source Heavenly Tao tablet that corresponds to the Immortal King realm. If the two of you want to determine the winner, why don't you leave your name on the origin source Heavenly Tao tablet and see what rank you are ranked at? Great Elder Life said with a faint smile. The origin source Heavenly Tao tablet for the Immortal King realm? I didn't expect it to fall into the hands of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. At this moment, even Di Hongluan could not help but exclaim. Her eyes were filled with eagerness. First Elder Life glanced at Di Hongluan and saw the white-haired old man next to her. His eyes narrowed, and he looked at Grandpa Tree with respect. So it's the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court. If the little princess is interested, you can also leave your name on the origin source Heavenly Tao tablet. If the rest of you are interested, you can give it a try. Great Elder Life said with a faint smile. Apart from Ling Xiao, the Crown Prince Li Wuji, the second Prince Li Wushuang, the Prince of the Dragon Emperor, the true Phoenix Maiden, and the others were dumbfounded. This was because they knew what the origin source Heavenly Tao tablet represented. They also knew how powerful the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance was to be able to obtain control of the origin source Heavenly Tao tablet. Chapter 3441. The origin Heavenly Tao tablet was a manifestation of the eternal Heavenly Tao and contained the origin of the Heavenly Tao. If a supreme expert broke through the limit of cultivation and surpassed the Heavenly Tao, the origin Heavenly Tao tablet would sense it and materialize it, leaving one's name on the Heavenly Tao tablet. If one could break the limit of the origin Heavenly Tao tablet, one might even have the chance to obtain the eternal Heavenly Tao's reward. However, even a quasi-immortal emperor expert would find it difficult to restrain the origin Heavenly Tao tablet. If the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance could restrain the origin Heavenly Tao tablet of an immortal king, could it be that there was a true immortal emperor expert in the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance? When they thought of this, they could not help but reveal a look of awe. All right, thank you, Great Elder Life. It just so happens that I want to see the legendary Origin Heavenly Tao tablet. The true Phoenix Maiden nodded. Her eyes shone brightly and were filled with anticipation. What about this little friend? Great Elder Life looked at Ling Xiao and smiled. I have no objections. Ling Xiao nodded in agreement. Ling Xiao, since Great Elder Life is here today, I will give him face and not kill you. However, if my ranking on the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet surpasses yours, you will give me the Eternal Fire Essence. If you can surpass me, I will give you a drop of true Phoenix blood. The true Phoenix Maiden gritted her teeth and stared at Ling Xiao coldly. She was still unwilling to give up the Eternal Fire Essence. Senior Ling Xiao agree. The true Phoenix blood is extremely precious to the true Phoenix nest. It is one of the few drops of Immortal Emperor blood left behind by the true Phoenix Immortal Emperor. If you can obtain it, not only will you be able to use it to refine your body, but you will also have the chance to comprehend a trace of the Heavenly Tao of Fire. Crown Prince Li Wuji hurriedly transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao originally wanted to refuse, but when he heard Crown Prince Li Wuji's words, he nodded indifferently and said, "Shameless boasting. You think you can defeat me? If Great Elder Life hadn't stopped me, you would have died at my hands. However, since you are not convinced, I will make you admit defeat today. I agree to this bet." Very well. Since that's the case, let me be the witness. The Great Elder Life Spirit said with a smile. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Everyone, I will now take out the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet. Great Elder Life said slowly. Rumble. A mysterious and powerful aura emanated from his body. A black token appeared in his palm. The token seemed to contain the origin energy of the eternal heavenly path. As he activated it, the world around him trembled violently. Chaotic light rose. Boundless sharpness was faintly discernible. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared above the 9 heavens. It was as if the heavens and earth had shattered. A crack as deep as an abyss appeared in the 9 heavens. Then, an ancient and powerful aura gushed out, and a simple and mysterious black stone tablet appeared in the sky. It emitted a vast heavenly might, and everyone couldn't help but tremble. Is this the Origin Heaven Tao tablet? The eyes of Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, Prince Long, the true Phoenix Maiden, and the others were filled with astonishment and curiosity. This was their first time seeing the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. It was rumored that after breaking through to the true immortal realm, the eternal heavenly path could manifest 4 Origin Heaven Tao tablets, corresponding to the true immortal, immortal king, quasi-immortal emperor, and immortal emperor realm. However, since ancient times, some of the Origin Heaven Tao tablets had been destroyed, some had disappeared, and some had been imprisoned like the Eternal Heaven Gate. As such, almost no one had ever seen the real Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. The Black Origin Heaven Tao tablet was like a chaotic divine mountain. It emitted an eternal and immortal aura, ancient and mysterious. There were 10 ancient and mysterious names on the Eternal Heaven Tao tablet. Against the heavens, Life Killer Lord, Sun, Nether King, Black Emperor, Qin Human King. Each of these 10 ancient and mysterious names had left an illustrious and brilliant name in the history of the eternal immortal domains. When the crowd saw the 10 names, they couldn't help but tremble. Their eyes were filled with horror. Black Emperor? Isn't that the supreme immortal emperor who founded the Blackwater Immortal Court 30 chaos eras ago? I didn't think he'd make it onto the Origin Heaven Tao tablet as an immortal king. The second prince, Li Wushuang, exclaimed. His eyes were filled with emotion. And then there's the Nether King. He founded the Nether Immortal Court and dominated tens of thousands of Tao domains in the Eternal Immortal Domains 10 eras ago. I didn't think he'd make it onto the Origin Heaven Tao tablet and be ranked 4th. Li Wuji said slowly. My grandfather made it onto the Origin Heaven Tao tablet? At that moment, Di Hongwan said in surprise. Her eyes were filled with shock. Everyone in the Radiance Immortal Court knew the name Di Tsung. He was also Di Hongwan's grandfather, the previous Radiance Emperor. Legend had it that Di Tsung was an unparalleled genius who dominated his generation. He'd been invincible among the younger generation of the eternal immortal domains. However, he'd gone into seclusion tens of millions of years ago and hadn't appeared since. Many people in the eternal immortal domains said he was in seclusion to break through to the immortal emperor realm. Others said he died. That's right. He's your grandfather, Lord Ditsang. He's also one of the people most likely to reach the immortal emperor realm in this chaos era. Great Elder Life sighed softly and said slowly, "Who are against the heavens and Lord Life Killer?" Di Hongwan asked curiously. Against the heavens is a figure from the previous chaos era. He's also known as the Eternal Celestial Emperor. Rumor has it that he's reached the peak of the immortal emperor realm. He's a genius who's no weaker than anyone else. He's said to be the most likely person to break through to the immortal emperor realm. He once broke the limit of the Origin Heaven Tao tablet, which is why he's ranked first. As for Lord Life Killer, he's a figure from our era. He's also known as the Killer Emperor. He's also incredibly talented and powerful. He's already a Tao Immortal Emperor and is one of the top figures in the eternal immortal domains. First Elder Life's eyes were filled with awe when he mentioned these two figures. I see. After hearing Great Elder Life's explanation, everyone came to a realization. At the same time, their eyes lit up with eagerness. They all hoped to leave their names on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. It was a supreme honor and also a symbol of unparalleled talent. Once one was listed on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet, it meant they'd be recognized by the Eternal Heavenly Tao. Not only would they be rewarded by the Eternal Heavenly Tao, but they'd also become famous in the eternal immortal domains. It was an irresistible temptation to countless geniuses. Chapter 3442. The Origin Heavenly Tao steel will be suppressed by the Eternal Heavenly Tao, so all you need to do is to display your cultivation and talent as much as possible. Try your best to get close to the Origin Heavenly Tao steel and place your palm on it. Only then will you have a chance to leave your name on it. If you can't even get close to the Origin Heavenly Tao steel, then it's almost impossible to leave your name on it. First Elder Life's eyes flashed and he smiled faintly. I'll give it a try. Second Prince Li Wushuang's eyes flashed and he took the lead to step forward with a trace of pride in his eyes. On the day of his birth, he was surrounded by boundless immortal light and auspicious qi. Purple qi spread across 30,000 miles, and he was born with a longevity bone. In terms of talent, he naturally surpassed Crown Prince Li Wuji, so he was full of confidence that he would be able to leave his name on the Origin Heavenly Tao steel. Rumble. Li Wushuang was surrounded by dazzling immortal light and auspicious qi, as if there were bolts of lightning intertwining around him. His entire body was dazzling with golden light, as if he was cast in gold, and he exuded a dignified and ancient aura. In particular, there seemed to be a trace of heavenly Tao emanating from his body, which was daunting to look at. In the next moment, he leaped into the air and soared toward the Origin Heavenly Tao steel. The Origin Heavenly Tao steel seemed to sense Li Wushuang's aura and suddenly burst out with boundless light. Boundless heavenly Tao power locked onto Li Wushuang and pressed down on him mightily. Li Wushuang's body trembled, and his body became incomparably slow when he was 10,000 feet away from the Origin Heavenly Tao steel. He felt as if the boundless heavenly Tao power of the entire eternal heavenly domain was supporting him. It was as if he was shouldering 10,000 immemorial divine mountains, putting him under great pressure. Open! Li Wushuang shouted. His eyes were filled with arrogance and defiance. He was conceited that his talent was unparalleled, and he had the longevity bone in his body. He was the most talented genius of the immortal court of fortune, so he wanted to leave his name on the Origin Heavenly Tao steel. As Li Wushuang circulated his cultivation, he seemed to be shrouded in a layer of invulnerable golden body aura. Mysterious and profound, he walked step by step toward the Origin Heavenly Tao steel. 10,000 feet, 9,000 feet, 8,000 feet. Although Li Wushuang's footsteps were slow, he was still getting closer to the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. Only after reaching a distance of 10,000 feet did he slowly come to a stop. At this moment, the vast heavenly might that erupted from the origin Heaven Dao steel was almost tangible. It conjured various mysterious phenomena that constantly pressed down on Li Wushuang. Even with Li Wushuang's cultivation base at the peak of the ninth heaven of the Celestial King realm, it was useless in the face of the vast pressure. What the Origin Heaven Dao tablet tested was a person's talent and potential. It had little to do with one's cultivation. Li Wushuang's glabella began to shine. His entire body was shrouded in a purple aura. Strands of origin aura began to spread out from his body. He stepped forward and walked towards the origin heavenly Dao steel. In the blink of an eye, he was 100 feet away from the origin heavenly Dao tablet. At this moment, even Li Wushuang's complexion was deathly pale. His legs were trembling slightly. It was as if he was enduring an enormous pressure. I, Li Wushuang, have unparalleled talent, and I'm destined to dominate the world. I'm destined to become a supreme immortal emperor and lead the immortal court of fortune to dominate the eternal immortal domains. How could I possibly stop here? Li Wushuang said slowly with a hint of madness in his eyes. Rumble. It was as if thunder and lightning were exploding inside his body. The longevity bone on his chest shone with immortal light, enveloping him completely. At this moment, even the origin heavenly Dao steel seemed to have sensed something and was trembling slightly. Li Wushuang instantly crossed the barrier and walked towards the origin heavenly Dao tablet. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the origin heaven Dao tablet. Rumble. Endless thunderbolts rose around Li Wushuang. The immortal light was like a sword radiance, constantly scouring his body, as if it was going to tear him to pieces. Standing in front of the origin heaven Dao tablet, Li Wushuang felt so tiny. However, his eyes were unprecedentedly bright. Then he slowly stretched out his hand and touched the origin heaven Dao tablet. He actually approached the origin heavenly Dao steel. Someone exclaimed. His eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji could only smile wryly. He knew that even if he personally took action, it would be very difficult for him to come within 100 feet of the origin heavenly Dao tablet. His younger brother's talent was indeed amazing. He had actually reached the origin heavenly Dao tablet and was only a step away from leaving his name on it. I wonder if he can replace the 10 outstanding prides of the ages and leave his name on the origin heavenly Dao tablet. Someone said slowly, his eyes filled with anticipation. The crowd couldn't help but hold their breaths and look at Li Wushuang. Boom! Just as Li Wushuang's hand landed on the origin heavenly Dao tablet, the origin heavenly Dao tablet blossomed with dazzling light. The longevity bone in Li Wushuang's body seemed to have formed a strange and mysterious connection with the origin heavenly Dao tablet. Billions of immortal light bloomed as Dao flowers rose. In the end, a total of 36 Dao flowers floated down from the 9 heavens and enveloped Li Wushuang. At the same time, among the 10 dazzling names on the eternal heavenly Dao tablet, the last name, Human King Qin, disappeared and was replaced by a brand new name, Li Wushuang. The crowd couldn't help but tremble, their eyes filled with incomparable shock. They didn't expect Li Wushuang, who was the first to take action, to have such incredible talent. He had directly pulled down a pride of the ages and left his name on the origin heavenly Dao tablet forever. What kind of heaven-defying talent was this? He actually attracted 36 eternal flowers, as expected of His Highness Wushuang, who could nurture the longevity bone. This talent is indeed amazing. No wonder he could replace the human King Qin. Great Elder Life Spirit also praised. She did not hide the admiration in her eyes. He also didn't expect Li Wushuang to be the first to take action and leave his name on the origin heavenly Dao tablet. This could only mean that Li Wushuang's talent was indeed amazing. No wonder he was called Wushuang. Only 10th. Li Wushuang frowned when he saw the name on the origin heavenly Dao tablet, a trace of disappointment in his eyes. He clearly wasn't satisfied with the result. Your Highness Wushuang, the 10 names on the origin heavenly Dao tablet are all prides of the ages. They are the strongest of the countless prides of the ages since the eternal immortal domain's existence. To be ranked among them is already enough to laugh proudly at the world. You are one of the strongest in the world. First Elder Life spoke slowly. Well, I've already left my name on the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet. Although I'm only 10th, I believe that no one can surpass me. Li Wushuang smiled proudly, then leapt back. He just left his name on the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet, and the tablet had bestowed upon him a mysterious secret art. It was now branded on his longevity bone. This was a supreme creation that he would have to carefully comprehend. Everyone's gaze towards Li Wushuang was filled with shock. They had a feeling that after today, Li Wushuang's name would spread throughout the eternal immortal domain. He would become one of the top prides of the ages. Chapter 34-43. Who wants to give it a try? If you can leave your name on the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet, you will be blessed by the eternal Heavenly Tao. Grand Elder Life Spirit looked at the crowd and smiled. The crowd fell silent. The second Prince Li Wushuang's talent was too shocking. Moreover, the vast power that the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet was emitting made it difficult for them to even get close to it, let alone leave their name on it. Let me give it a try. Prince Long's eyes flashed as he said confidently. He was the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley and possessed the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. As for the Dragon Emperor, he was the founder of the Dragon Emperor Valley and a powerful immortal emperor. He had once dominated an entire chaos epoch and was invincible. As the successor of the Dragon Emperor, Prince Long's bloodline was close to atavism and his talent was naturally terrifying. Therefore, he was confident and wanted to give it a try to see if he could leave his name on the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. Rumble. Divine light shone from Prince Long's body and lightning flashed. A vast and ancient dragon's aura spread out. He let out an earth-shattering dragon roar and instantly shot up to the sky, heading towards the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. Prince Long was extremely fast and in the blink of an eye, he was already 10,000 feet away from the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. Like Li Wushuang, when Prince Long was within 10,000 feet of the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet, the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet shone with dazzling light and a vast aura pressed down on Prince Long. Prince Long instantly felt that he was so small in front of the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. However, his eyes were filled with arrogance and defiance. He suddenly activated the Dragon Emperor's bloodline in his body. Blazing light bloomed, and bright golden light gushed out from his body. His entire body seemed to be made of gold. His speed became faster and faster, and he was even faster than Li Wushuang. In the blink of an eye, he was already 10,000 feet away from the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. The Heavenly Tao coercion at 1,000 feet was even more terrifying. However, under Prince Dragon Emperor's powerful Dragon Emperor bloodline, his speed was only a little slower. Soon, he was within 1,000 feet of the Origin Source Heavenly Tao tablet. Divine light flashed and the cosmic laws intertwined. The heavenly waves might formed a hurricane that kept pressing down on Prince Long. Prince Long took a step forward while withstanding the violent pressure. His eyes were filled with arrogance and defiance. Prince Long's speed is even faster than the second Prince Li Wuji's. Could he also leave his name on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet? Everyone's bodies trembled, and their eyes were filled with shock and awe. The far ancient theocrats are indeed worthy of being called the far ancient theocrats. Everyone was looking forward to it. Perhaps Prince Long would be able to leave his name on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. After an extremely difficult journey, Prince Long's speed became slower and slower, as if he was carrying a chaotic mountain on his back. He was surrounded by endless pressure and tornadoes, as if they were going to destroy his mind and tear his body into pieces. However, under such terrifying pressure, Prince Long still managed to reach the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet despite his pale face. He took a deep breath, stretched out his hand, and placed it on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. At this moment, everyone could not help but hold their breaths. Rumble. There seemed to be a vast and ancient dragon's roar coming from Prince Long's body, shaking the void. In an instant, a giant divine dragon, surrounded by endless immortal light, shot out from Prince Long's body and merged with the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. The Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet also shone brightly, and origin flowers fell from the Heaven Tao tablet, merging into Prince Long's body. The 10 names on the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet shone brightly, and they were trembling slightly. However, they gradually calmed down in the end. Although Prince Long was extremely talented, he had only managed to trigger 30 origin flowers in the end. He did not manage to leave his name on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. More than 30 origin flowers merged with Sun Long's body and became his foundation, allowing him to have a smoother path of cultivation in the future. Although he was rewarded by the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet, Prince Long's eyes were still filled with disappointment and unwillingness. He did not expect that he was not as talented as the second prince, Li Wushuang. He did not even have the right to leave his name on the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. This was a huge blow to the arrogant and unruly Prince Long. Prince Long did not say a word, and turned around to leave. "Your Highness, don't you want to give it a try?" Ling Xiao asked slowly, his eyes glinting. "Senior Ling Xiao, I won't embarrass myself. Even my talented second brother could only leave his name on the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. If I try, I'm afraid I won't even be able to get close to the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. At that time, I'll be a laughing stock," Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a wry smile. However, his eyes were filled with calmness, and he admitted that he was indeed not as good as the second prince, Li Wushuang. After Prince Long, more than 10 talented young geniuses and supreme geniuses went forward to try their luck. They wanted to get close to the Origin Source Heavenly Tao tablet and leave their names on it. However, without exception, they could not even get close to the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. Most of them stopped within 100 feet of the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet and could not advance any further. In the end, only the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, Di Hongluan, the true Phoenix Maiden, and Ling Xiao were left. Everyone's eyes fell on the three of them, especially the true Phoenix Maiden and Ling Xiao. Because of the bet between the two of them, they wanted to see who was more talented between the true Phoenix Maiden and Ling Xiao. However, they were more inclined towards the true Phoenix Maiden. After all, she was the successor of the true Phoenix Nest. Moreover, it was said that her bloodline was close to that of the true Phoenix Immortal Emperor. She probably had the chance to leave her name on the Origin Source Heaven Tao tablet. As for Ling Xiao, although his combat strength was extraordinary, there did not seem to be anything special about him. Moreover, they had never heard of Ling Xiao's name before. Therefore, they naturally thought that in terms of talent and potential, Ling Xiao was not as good as the true Phoenix Maiden. "Since the two of you have a bet, then let me go first." Di Hongluan smiled. She had been itching to try for a long time. Seeing that no one else wanted to try, she instantly flew up into the sky. Chapter 3444. Di Hongluan's body glowed with dazzling light. She was as dazzling as the sun. Her red dress fluttered in the wind. She was tall and slender, and her skin was as white as jade. She exuded an otherworldly aura. However, on her incomparably beautiful face, there was also an incomparably majestic aura. She had the bearing of a ruler, causing others to be intimidated by her. Di Hongluan seemed to have become the focus of the world, overshadowing the true Phoenix Maiden. Everyone's eyes fell on Di Hongluan. Their eyes were filled with shock. Even the true Phoenix Maiden looked at Di Hongluan with jealousy in her eyes. The true Phoenix Maiden recognized Di Hongluan. She was the little princess of the Radiance Immortal Court, one of the 4 immortal courts in the Central Immortal Domain. The 4 immortal courts in the Central Immortal Domain were the 4 most transcendent powers in the Eternal Immortal Domain. They were all supreme immortal courts with immortal emperors. Unlike the Creation Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court, although their ancestors had immortal emperors and eternal emperor weapons, they didn't have a single immortal emperor in charge. The primeval theocrats had a deep foundation, but no one knew if they had any immortal emperors. In terms of strength, the 4 immortal courts in the Central Immortal Domain were the most terrifying. Every immortal court had a true immortal emperor overseeing it. They were invincible in the world and could suppress an entire primal chaos epic. They were the absolute synonyms of invincibility and strength. As the little princess of the Radiant's immortal court, Di Hongwan's status was far above everyone else. When she came to the immortal court of creation, it was as if she had come to a remote village. Everyone was looking forward to seeing if the little princess of the Radiant's immortal court would be able to leave her name on the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet. Hundreds of millions of bolts of chaotic lightning flashed in the void. Boundless immortal light rose. Di Hongwan was surrounded by blazing flames. She was like a bolt of crimson lightning as she sped toward the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet. She was extremely fast. Outside the Origin Heavenly Tao tablet, the Heavenly Tao suppression at the 10,000 feet, 10,000 feet, and 1,000 feet were all different. Even the second Prince Li Wushuang and Prince Long felt the immense pressure and slowed down. However, Di Hongwan didn't slow down at all. In the blink of an eye, she passed through the layers of pressure and arrived before the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. Her speed is so fast. It seems like this little princess of the Radiant's immortal court is indeed very talented. I'm looking forward to it. Someone sucked in a breath of cold air and said. His eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Radiant sovereign physique? One of the two peerless geniuses of the Radiant's immortal court. No wonder she was so fast. Her talent was truly terrifying. She could be ranked at the top of the eternal immortal domains. I'm afraid less than 5 people in this era can surpass her in terms of talent. The first Elder Life Spirit's pupils shrank, revealing a trace of shock as she slowly spoke. He could see that Di Hongwan was emitting an infinite amount of light. It wasn't caused by her mana or techniques, but by her flesh, bones, and heart. All of them were emitting an infinite amount of light at the same time. It was as if she was the ruler of this world, mysterious and unpredictable. This was the Radiant Sovereign Physique. She could suppress all chaos and shatter everything. Her power was incomparably terrifying. She was a natural-born ruler with the bearing of a ruler. In the first Elder Life Spirit's opinion, if the Radiant Immortal Court didn't have a Radiant Chaotic Physique that was no weaker than the Radiant Sovereign Physique, this little princess would be the undisputed successor of the Radiant's Immortal Court. I hope I can surpass Grandpa. I hope I can surpass Grandpa. I hope I can surpass Grandpa. Di Hongwan stood before the Origin Heaven Tao tablet, feeling a little nervous. Especially when she saw the third name on the Origin Heaven Tao stele, her eyes were filled with incomparable excitement and agitation. Finally, she took a deep breath and slowly reached out her silver-white hand to touch the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. Rumble. Behind Di Hongwan, there seemed to be a dazzling sun rising. It bloomed with boundless light and dyed the world white. The dazzling sun seemed to be able to suppress time and space and shatter everything. It transformed into the Eternal Heaven Tao tablet and was extremely mysterious. It instantly merged with the Origin Heaven Tao tablet. Rumble. The Origin Heavenly Tao tablet trembled violently. It was even more terrifying than before. An aura that could destroy the heavens and the earth erupted from it. The Origin Heaven Tao tablet shone brightly. Origin flowers floated out from the Origin Heaven Tao tablet and merged with Di Hongwan's body. Those origin flowers were densely packed like rain, extremely dazzling and dazzling. The 10 names on the Origin Heaven Tao tablet also shone brightly and vibrated continuously. In the end, everyone saw Di Hongwan's name appear in the 3rd place. She replaced Di Tsong, the Supreme Celestial Emperor of the Radiant's Immortal Court, and pushed him down to the 4th place. Everyone was shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They looked at Di Hongwan with deep respect. She actually left her name in the 3rd place of the Origin Heaven Tao tablet, second only to Against the Heavens and Lord Lifekiller. Even Emperor Di Tsong, an immortal emperor of the Radiant's Immortal Court, was suppressed. Just how terrifying was Di Hongwan's talent? 999 origin flowers. 9 is the limit. As expected of the sovereign of Radiant's physique. Such a person can probably be ranked in the top 3 of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. Great Elder Life Spirit said slowly. His eyes shone brightly as he revealed a sliver of excitement. He seemed to have made a decision in his heart. He looked at Di Hongluan with a burning gaze. If it weren't for the fact that there were two other people who hadn't tried yet, he would have charged at Di Hongluan already. At this moment, the second prince, Li Wushuang, had the worst expression. His face was about to turn green. This was because he was originally ranked 10th on the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Now that Di Hongluan was 3rd on the Origin Heaven Dao stele, his name naturally disappeared from the stele. It wasn't easy for him to appear on the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Although he was only ranked 10th, Li Wushuang was extremely proud. He thought that from today onwards, his name would spread throughout the eternal immortal domain. He would become a top genius, a supreme sovereign. At that time, even the Creation Immortal Court would give him priority when selecting the next emperor. But now, because of Di Hongluan, all of this was ruined. If Li Wushuang wasn't afraid of Di Hongluan's powerful background, he would have rushed up and killed Di Hongluan with his arrogance. Even so, Li Wushuang looked at Di Hongluan with an ugly expression. Endless anger surged in his eyes. Di Hongluan returned like a red stream of light. When she passed by Li Wushuang, she gently patted his shoulder and smiled. "Sorry, I pushed your name down. However, your talent is a bit too weak. If you could reach the 8th or 9th place, I wouldn't have pushed you down so easily." Di Hongluan's words made Li Wushuang's body stiffen. He almost vomited blood. However, he couldn't say anything. He could only turn his head away and not look at Di Hongluan. He was afraid that if he looked at Di Hongluan again, he wouldn't be able to stop himself from killing her. In the end, only the true Phoenix Maiden and Ling Xiao were left who had not tried. Chapter 3445. Ling Xiao, I will leave my name on the Origin Heaven Dao tablet today. The eternal fire essence is mine. The true Phoenix Maiden glanced at Ling Xiao arrogantly, then shot into the sky and headed for the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Swoosh! A piercing sound rang out, like the cry of a phoenix. Blazing flames rose, and the golden light was dazzling. An ancient and mysterious phoenix flew out from behind the true Phoenix Maiden, exuding towering flames as if it wanted to destroy everything. That ancient and powerful aura caused everyone's bodies to involuntarily tremble. At this moment, even Prince Long's expression turned solemn. Although he was the successor of the Dragon Emperor Valley, his bloodline was only very close to the Dragon Emperor's. In fact, he was still very far away. However, the true Phoenix Maiden's bloodline had most likely reached the level of the true Phoenix Immortal Emperor. Even if it was just a little bit off, it wouldn't be too far off. This was the bloodline of a true Immortal Emperor. How powerful and terrifying would her talent be? The true Phoenix Maiden seemed to want to compete with Di Hongluan. Her speed became extremely fast. With the support of the true Phoenix Shadow, she was like a ray of red divine light, instantly piercing through the heavenly Dao suppression and arriving in front of the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Boom! She slammed her palm on the Origin Heaven Dao stele. Endless divine light blossomed as the dazzling true Phoenix Phantom behind the true Phoenix Maiden erupted with endless power. It soared into the sky and merged with the Origin Source Heaven Dao stele. The Origin Heavenly Dao stele trembled violently and shone with dazzling light. Millions of rays of immortal light bloomed and the Dao flowers surged. One by one, the Origin flowers floated down. In the end, a total of 49 Origin flowers fell down. The 49 Origin flowers floated down from the void and shrouded the true Phoenix Maiden. At the same time, the 10 dazzling names on the Eternal Heaven Dao tablet shook violently. The last name, Black Emperor, slowly disappeared. It became a new name, Huang Aoshuang. This was the true Phoenix Maiden's real name, and her name was forever branded on the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Seeing this, the true Phoenix Maiden didn't look happy at all. Instead, she looked a little upset. After all, Di Hongluan's name was ranked 3rd on the Origin Heaven Dao tablet, while she was only ranked 10th. This meant that in the eyes of the Origin Heaven Dao tablet, her talent and potential were far inferior to Di Hongluan's. The true Phoenix Maiden's expression was incomparably cold. She turned into a stream of light and instantly returned. She looked at Ling Xiao and said coldly, "Do you still want to try? I'm afraid that with your talent, you won't even be able to get close to the origin source Heavenly Tao tablet. If you obediently hand over the eternal fire essence, I can spare your life. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite later." She almost vented all her displeasure and jealousy towards Di Hongwan on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and said, "How would you know if you don't try? However, when my name surpasses yours on the origin Heaven Dao steel, you will obediently become my maid." Ling Xiao's expression was calm and indifferent. He ignored the true Phoenix Maiden's furious and murderous gaze and leapt towards the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. Everyone's gaze fell on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao was the last person to try to leave his name on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. Everyone had different expressions. Some thought that Ling Xiao's battle strength was so extraordinary that he could easily defeat the true Phoenix Maiden. His talent was also extraordinary and he might even be able to leave his name on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. However, some people thought that although Ling Xiao's battle strength was strong, his talent and potential were much inferior to the true Phoenix Maidens. Even the true Phoenix Maiden had only left her name at the 10th position on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. Ling Xiao would definitely not be able to leave his name on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. In fact, there were quite a few people who held this view. Only Di Hongwan and the elder beside her looked at Ling Xiao with interest. Ling Xiao exuded an ethereal and indifferent aura. Immortal light swirled around him and chaotic light filled the air. He walked in the air and didn't move quickly. Every step he took left a footprint as he walked towards the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. Although he didn't seem to be moving quickly, he approached the origin source Heaven Dao tablet with ease. 10,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 100 feet, and finally arrived at the bottom of the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. After all, Ling Xiao appeared to be too relaxed. That kind of ease even made many people who thought Ling Xiao would definitely lose feel a trace of anticipation and confidence. Could Ling Xiao really leave his name on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet? Although the true Phoenix Maiden looked cold and arrogant on the surface, she couldn't help but clench her fists tightly. Clearly, she wasn't as calm as she appeared on the surface. Rumble. Ling Xiao placed his palm on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. In an instant, chaotic light rose as if billions of suns had exploded at the same time. Behind him, there seemed to be endless chaotic fiend gods fighting. Countless worlds fell and mysterious scenes of time and space being destroyed. In the end, everything returned to chaos. Amidst the endless chaotic light, there was a mysterious world tree rooted in the chaos. Its leaves were luxuriant, and each leaf was nurturing an ancient world. The world tree pierced through the chaos. It was ancient and eternal, mysterious and unfathomable. After the Tree of World appeared, the origin Heaven Dao tablet started to tremble violently. Boundless immortal light was faintly discernible, and boundless origin energy surged violently. A vast heavenly Dao ocean seemed to appear above the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. Origin source flowers floated down, densely packed. It was unknown how many there were, but all of them enveloped Ling Xiao, almost drowning him. The 10 names on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet trembled violently. Against the Heavens, who was ranked first, instantly fell by 1 place. Ling Xiao's name was ranked first on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. He was ranked above against the Heavens and became the true number 1 on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. It was as if Ling Xiao's figure was the only thing left in their minds. That invincible and mysterious figure who could pierce heaven and earth, who could suppress the 8 Desolaces and sweep through the chaos, would forever be branded in everyone's hearts. First place on the origin source Heaven Dao tablet, even more talented than against the Heavens. This meant that the origin source Heaven Dao tablet recognized Ling Xiao's talent and potential. He was the undisputed number 1 in the eternal immortal domains for countless chaos epics. What an honor! One could only imagine that after today, Ling Zhao's name would spread throughout the eternal immortal domains like a rising sun. No one would be able to stop him. Chapter 3446. Rumble. Ling Xiao stood under the origin heavenly Tao steel, surrounded by lightning and divine light. Auspicious qi rose, and vast immortal light spread out like colorful clouds. At the same time, various mysterious scenes of immortal beasts, fiend gods, and the myriad of worlds appeared behind him, causing him to emanate a vast and ancient pressure of the heaven Tao. The origin flowers merged with Ling Zhao's body, making his aura stronger and more unfathomable. It was as if he had become one with the eternal heavenly Tao. He felt like he was floating in the air and was about to leave this world. The origin flowers were the purest heavenly Tao origin. At this moment, the origin flower had completely fused into Ling Zhao's body. Although it didn't allow his cultivation base to break through directly, it allowed his foundation to grow stronger. In the future, even after he broke through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, his strength would still grow stronger. At the same time, a vast and mysterious torrent of information merged with Ling Zhao's mind between his eyebrows. Blazing chaotic lightning rose, and the golden light was dazzling. The torrent of information turned into a golden scripture. It was profound, ancient, and mysterious. When Ling Xiao completely merged with the scripture, a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. Great Change Heavenly Tao Technique. This was a supreme technique given to him by the origin Heavenly Tao steel. This supreme technique was very mysterious. It wasn't an immortal emperor's secret technique, nor was it a powerful immortal path remarkable ability. However, it was very unique. It could transform the power of the Heavenly Tao for one's own use. At the same time, it could absorb and devour other people's Heavenly Tao origin. The Great Change Heavenly Tao technique was extensive and profound. Although Ling Xiao only had a preliminary understanding of it, he could already feel that this secret technique was very important to him. Moreover, as the vast origin flowers merged with Ling Zhao's body and his primordial spirit, his comprehension of the Great Change Heavenly Tao technique became faster and faster. He seemed to have sunk into a state of comprehension. The light of origin energy around him rose, giving off an aura that made everyone tremble. How can he have such great talent and potential? He actually jumped to first place on the origin Heavenly Tao steel? Even against the heavens was completely suppressed. Di Hongwan's eyes widened in disbelief. She possessed the supreme radiant physique, so naturally, she was incomparably arrogant. Although she had paid attention to Ling Xiao previously, she did not think that Ling Xiao could surpass her in terms of talent. Now that Ling Xiao had displayed his unparalleled talent, she was deeply shocked. The second Prince Li Wushuang, Prince Long, and the true Phoenix Maiden's faces darkened. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The three of them were supremely talented, but they still felt a great sense of defeat in the face of the origin Heaven Tao tablet. This was especially true for true Phoenix Maiden. She was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood. She had just managed to leave her name on the origin Heaven Tao tablet. Although it was only 10th place, it was still very impressive. Who would have thought that Ling Xiao would be able to overwhelm the 10 peerless figures and become the undisputed number 1 on the origin Heaven Tao tablet? Naturally, the true Phoenix Maiden was pushed down and her name disappeared from the origin Heaven Tao tablet. She was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood. Looks like I made the right choice. Royal Uncle really has a discerning eye for talent. Crown Prince Li Wuji's eyes were bright, filled with shock and excitement. Even he did not expect Ling Xiao to have such heaven-defying talent and potential. First place on the origin Heaven Tao tablet. Such talent was unprecedented. In this way, as long as Ling Xiao did not die in the future, he was destined to become an immortal emperor expert. Crown Prince Li Wuji felt extremely fortunate to be able to befriend such a person. At the same time, he was even more determined to treat Ling Xiao well. He had to tie Ling Xiao to the immortal court of creation at all costs. Perhaps Ling Xiao was the key to restoring the immortal court of creation's ancestral glory. At this moment, the most shocked person was Life Grand Elder. He had already noticed Ling Xiao's extraordinariness. He had summoned the Origin Heaven Dao tablet to test Ling Xiao's talent. In his opinion, Ling Xiao's talent was extraordinary and should be able to enter the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao to give him such a huge surprise. Ling Xiao had directly reached first place on the Origin Heaven Dao tablet and even suppressed heaven. Such heaven-defying talent made him feel shocked and incredulous. However, the light in his eyes became even more resplendent, becoming extremely scorching. He looked at Ling Xiao as if he was looking at a supreme treasure. As long as I can convince him to join the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance, I might be able to obtain that supreme fortune. Ling Xiao might also be able to reach the top of the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Great Elder Life Spirit thought to herself. She immediately made up her mind and made her decision. No one dared to disturb Ling Xiao's cultivation. Everyone was shocked into silence. Ling Xiao stood beneath the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Strange phenomena rose around him. Origin flowers swirled around him, and the vast and mysterious heavenly Daos might made them feel a trace of fear in their cultivation. Looking at Ling Xiao's figure, they felt as if they were looking at a rising sun that would illuminate the eternal immortal domains. His peerless bearing was unparalleled. Even the arrogant and conceited second prince, Li Wushuang, couldn't help but wonder if it wasn't worth making an enemy out of Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao stood beneath the Origin Heaven Dao tablet for 3 days and 3 nights, and the mysterious phenomenon lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days later, Ling Xiao slowly opened his eyes. 2 bolts of lightning flashed in his pupils, piercing through the void and destroying everything in their path. Around him was a black hole that devoured everything, devouring all of the origin flowers in the blink of an eye. His cultivation was still at the peak of the 9th level of the Immortal King realm, and he had yet to break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. However, everyone could sense that Ling Xiao's aura had become even more mysterious and extraordinary. His entire being seemed to radiate a transcendent aura. No matter where he went, he seemed to become the focal point of heaven and earth, dazzling and eye-catching. Everyone couldn't help but feel ashamed of their own inferiority. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, congratulations on reaching the top of the Origin Heaven Dao tablet. Your talent is unprecedented, and I'm afraid it won't be long before news of it spreads throughout the eternal immortal domains. This old man has a few things to discuss with fellow Taoist Ling Xiao. Would that be all right? First Elder Life Grand Elder stepped forward and smiled at Ling Xiao. Everyone was stunned. They hadn't expected First Elder Life Grand Elder to address Ling Xiao as a fellow Taoist. Chapter 3447. One had to know that First Elder Life's cultivation was top-notch. Even the Fortune Emperor Lord had to show some respect to him. Even Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang had to greet First Elder Life as a junior. However, considering that Ling Xiao had reached the top of the Origin Heaven Dao steel and possessed such heaven-defying talent, it was not surprising that First Elder Life chose to interact with Ling Xiao as an equal. Sure. Ling Xiao's eyes glinted as he nodded his head and said. He could sense that First Elder Life didn't have any ill intentions. Moreover, if First Elder Life hadn't taken out the Origin Heavenly Dao steel, he wouldn't have been able to ascend the steel and obtain such great fortune and opportunity. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, please follow me. First Elder Life smiled as he led Ling Xiao into the depths of the pocket world. Although everyone was curious as to why First Elder Life was looking for Ling Xiao, they didn't dare to ask. Moreover, the Heavenly Dao auction had already ended. It wasn't appropriate for them to stay any longer, so they quickly left the pocket world. Only Di Hongwan's eyes shone brightly. She looked at Ling Xiao's back with an unconvinced expression. She pondered for a moment and decided not to leave immediately. She wanted to wait for Ling Xiao, but she didn't know what he was planning. In the depths of the Heavenly Dao pocket world, Ling Xiao and First Elder Life sat facing each other at the peak of a mountain range that reached into the clouds. First Elder Life took out a teapot and brewed 2 cups of immortal tea with the source of life. He placed 1 cup in front of Ling Xiao. These are some tea leaves that I planted in my spare time. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, please have a taste. Perhaps it will have a different flavor. First Elder Life said with a smile. Ling Xiao could sense that First Elder Life had something to ask of him, but he wasn't in a hurry. He picked up the cup of life immortal tea and took a whiff. He immediately felt a mysterious aura flowing through his body, as if he had become one with the heavens. He drank the cup in 1 gulp, and a vast and majestic energy flowed through his body. Ling Xiao's cultivation improved by a few notches. Moreover, when the tea entered his throat, it was incomparably sweet and lingering. Good tea! Ling Xiao couldn't hide his praise. I'm glad you like it, fellow Taoist Ling Xiao. I still have some stock here that I can give to you. The First Elder of Life smiled and gave a white jade teapot to Ling Xiao. Great Elder Life, I won't accept a reward for nothing. If you have something to say, just say it. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and did not directly accept the white jade teapot. Since that's the case, I'll be frank. Great Elder Life said with a smile. I wonder how much fellow Taoist Ling Xiao knows about the Heavenly Tao Commerce Union? Great Elder Life's eyes flashed as he said slowly. Heavenly Tao Business Alliance? But I have heard some rumors. It was said that the Heavenly Law Business Alliance controlled a vast amount of wealth in the eternal immortal domains, and that their strength was unfathomable. Almost every major power had a branch of the Heavenly Law Business Union in their territory. Moreover, there seems to be a supreme immortal emperor overseeing the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. Ling Xiao said slowly. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao is right. However, my Heavenly Tao Business Alliance will probably face a crisis that's about to erupt. Great Elder Life Spirit nodded. She then sighed softly, and her eyes were filled with worry. Crisis? Given the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's strength, I'm afraid there aren't many people in the eternal immortal domains who can pose a threat to you. Ling Xiao asked curiously. That's right. With an immortal emperor overseeing the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance, it's naturally impregnable. However, what if the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance is no longer around? Great Elder Life Spirit seemed to have no intention of hiding the truth from Ling Xiao. What? Ling Xiao's entire body trembled, and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. The immortal emperor of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance was said to be unparalleled in strength, standing at the pinnacle of the eternal immortal domains. Who could possibly pose a threat to him? Ling Xiao's mind spun as he thought about why Great Elder Life Spirit had called him here. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, I'll tell you the truth. The immortal emperor of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance has met with an accident. Therefore, the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance needs to elect a new alliance leader to take charge of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. You should understand that without an immortal emperor overseeing the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance, the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance will become a juicy piece of meat in the eyes of countless factions in the eternal immortal domains. Everyone will want to take a bite out of it. This is the greatest crisis facing the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. Great Elder Life sighed softly. Her expression was very sincere. Great Elder Life Spirit, is there anything I can do to help the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance? Ling Xiao asked slowly. That's right. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, I'd like to invite you to join the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and compete for the position of Alliance Leader. Great Elder Life Spirit said slowly. What? You want me to compete for the position of Alliance Leader? Great Elder Life Spirit, I'm afraid you're taking this too lightly. You don't know anything about me, yet you're rashly inviting me to join the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance? Aren't you afraid that I'll covet the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's vast resources as well? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he smiled faintly. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, the reason I took out the Origin Heavenly Tao Steel was to test your talent and potential. You've ranked first on the Origin Heavenly Tao Steel, suppressing against the heavens and Lord Life Killer. You're extraordinarily talented and powerful. In the future, you'll definitely become a supreme immortal emperor. Therefore, I believe that you have a high chance of becoming the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's alliance leader. If you can become the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's alliance leader, you'll have control over the vast amount of cultivation resources in the eternal immortal domains. Countless experts in the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance will follow your lead and command. At that time, you'll need much less time to break through to the Immortal Emperor realm. Great Elder Life Spirit spoke with complete sincerity as she slowly rose to her feet. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, I sincerely invite you to join the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and compete for the position of Alliance Leader. Please don't refuse. Great Elder Life Spirit sighed softly before bowing to Ling Xiao. Rumble. The void trembled. A quasi-immortal emperor was capable of evoking the might of the Heavenly Tao. Great Elder Life Spirit bowed to Ling Xiao as a quasi-immortal emperor. Immediately, the Heavenly Tao sensed it, causing the void to tremble and give birth to all sorts of mysterious images. Ling Xiao sat there, his eyes flashing. He didn't rashly agree. He thought for a moment, then stared at Great Elder Life Spirit and slowly said, Great Elder Life Spirit, is there something you haven't told me? I'd like to ask, why does it have to be me? Ling Xiao wasn't tempted by Great Elder Life Spirit's words. He was very calm. To him, becoming the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's alliance leader would certainly give him a vast amount of cultivation resources. However, if he couldn't figure out the reason behind this, he naturally wouldn't agree rashly. Chapter 3448. After hearing Ling Xiao's words, the great elder hesitated slightly. But in the end, his eyes shone with determination. He took a deep breath and said slowly to Ling Xiao, because only you can save the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. The Life Grand Elder's words were filled with sorrow, as well as a hint of fear and horror that he had concealed. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat when he saw the strange look in the First Elder's eyes. What could make a quasi-immortal emperor so fearful? As if she had already made up her mind, the Life Grand Elder did not try to hide anything. She told Ling Xiao everything. Fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, our Heavenly Tao Business Alliance has a total of 36 Grand Elders under the Alliance Master. When the Alliance Master is absent, the 36 First Elders can form a Council of Elders to decide the future of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. The Council of Elders is the highest authority in the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance, second only to the Alliance Master. However, ever since I heard that something had happened to the Alliance Master, the Council of Elders has changed. Several of the First Elders have jointly recommended the Alliance Master's personal disciple to become the young Alliance Master and take charge of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. First Elder Life explained slowly. Is there something wrong with the Alliance Master's personal disciple? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he asked slowly. That's right. First Elder Life nodded. I cultivate the Heavenly Tao of Life, so I'm very familiar with the auras of the billions of beings in the eternal immortal domains. Although the Alliance Master's personal disciple has done his best to conceal his aura, I can still sense a trace of the aura of a creature of darkness on him. It's possible that he's fallen to darkness and been invaded by it. If he takes charge of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and becomes the Alliance Master, not only will the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance be destroyed, but the eternal immortal domains will also face a great calamity. No matter what, I can't let him become the Alliance Master. Unfortunately, although I'm 80% sure that he's been invaded by a creature of darkness, I don't have any proof. Even if I bring it up, the First Elders won't listen to me. It's hard to say how many of the First Elders have been bribed by him or are plotting against him. Besides, I don't want to alert him. However, even if I can't decide whether or not to let him become the Alliance Master on my own. However, I can choose a candidate to compete with him for the position of Alliance Master. As long as you can defeat him and all the other candidates, you will be able to become the true Alliance Master of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. First Elder Life's voice was full of sincerity. He told her everything. He even told Ling Xiao all of his guesses and his worries and suspicions about the other First Elders without hiding anything. He hoped Ling Xiao would join the Alliance Master of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and become the Alliance Master. It could be said that the reason Grand Elder Life came to the Celestial Court of Fortune was to search for peerless geniuses. She hoped to recruit them into the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and make them a candidate for the Alliance Master position. He'd originally wanted Di Hongluan, but she was a princess of the Radiance Immortal Court. Her status was very special. The Radiance Immortal Court was no weaker than the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance, so the Radiance Immortal Court wouldn't want Di Hongluan involved in the competition. Moreover, even if the Radiance Immortal Court agreed, the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's Council of Elders wouldn't allow a princess of the Radiance Immortal Court to become the Alliance Master. Grand Elder Life Spirit had never thought that Ling Xiao would give him such a huge surprise. Ling Xiao's innate talent was unparalleled throughout the ages, and he could always suppress all prodigies. Even against the heavens, who was said to have reached the peak of the immortal emperor realm, had been suppressed by Ling Xiao. In First Elder Life's opinion, as long as Ling Xiao didn't die, he would definitely become a supreme immortal emperor. If such a person joined the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance, he would definitely be able to save the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance from danger. He might even be able to get rid of the traitor, the Alliance Master's personal disciple. Furthermore, Grand Elder Life had already investigated Ling Xiao's identity. Ling Xiao came from the Chaos Sea and had nothing to do with the various superpowers of the eternal immortal domains. Such a person was most suitable to become the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's Alliance Master. What's the cultivation level of the Alliance Master's personal disciple? If I defeat him, I'll become the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's Alliance Master. Isn't this too much of a joke? Ling Xiao's eyes flickered as he pondered for a moment before he spoke slowly. First Elder Life's body shook. He could hear the change in Ling Xiao's tone and felt hopeful. He hurriedly said, "First, you have to join the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and become an elder of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's branch in the Fortune Immortal Court. Then, I'll recommend you as a candidate for the position of Alliance Master." The selection of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's Alliance Master requires several tests. The Alliance Master's personal disciple has just broken through to the half-immortal Emperor realm, but his talent is incomparably great. However, I believe that you'll be able to defeat him and become the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's Alliance Master. At that time, the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's countless wealth and resources will be at your disposal. You'll be able to break through to the immortal Emperor realm in the shortest time possible. First Elder Life said with a hint of eagerness. Ling Xiao thought for a moment, but didn't find any deception in First Elder Life's words. Moreover, joining the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance didn't seem to be a bad thing for him. If he could become the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's Alliance Master, he would be able to shorten the time required to break through to the immortal Emperor realm. It had been countless years since he left the Yerwilds. Ling Xiao missed Jin Se, Shui Wei, his two adorable children, and his parents and friends very much. However, the eternal immortal domains were fraught with danger. Ling Xiao didn't have the strength to protect himself, let alone protect them. If he could break through to the immortal Emperor realm as soon as possible, he could return to the Yerwilds and bring them to the eternal immortal domains. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he thought of this. He looked deeply at First Elder Life and nodded. "All right, I agree to join the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance. However, before that, I must help Crown Prince Li Wuji participate in the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield's trial and obtain the eternal fruit to break through to the half-immortal Emperor realm." "Wonderful! Ling Xiao, from now on, you'll be an elder of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance's branch in the Fortune Immortal Court. As for your request to enter the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield, I understand. Even if you hadn't said anything, I would have let you enter the Heavenly Tao Ancient Battlefield to train. You can hunt the creatures of darkness there, so you'll be very familiar with them. When you meet the Alliance Master's personal disciple, you'll know that I'm telling the truth." First Elder Life said excitedly, as if a huge rock had been lifted from her heart. Chapter 3449. Not to mention, The eternal fruit in the heavenly ancient battlefield can indeed help you break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm as soon as possible. However, with your talent and potential, one eternal fruit might not be of much use to you. If you can take a few more, you will definitely be able to accumulate a lot of power. After breaking through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm, you will also have an extremely powerful combat strength. Great Elder Life Force smiled slightly. A light flashed in his palm, and a white jade box appeared. He slowly opened the white jade box, and there was an ancient map inside. Ling Xiao, since you are willing to join my Heavenly Dao Business Alliance, you are one of us from now on. Take this treasure map as a meeting gift from me to you. The 3 locations marked on the map contain 3 fruits of eternity. They were not ripe in the previous epoch, but they should be completely ripe in this epoch. After you enter, you should speed up and find these 3 eternal fruits first. Then, find a place to go into seclusion as soon as possible and break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Only then will you have enough power to protect yourself. I hope that during the trial in the heavenly ancient battlefield, even if you have to kill the dark creatures, you will still prioritize your own safety. Great Elder Life Force said seriously. 3 eternal fruits. Ling Xiao could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. His eyes were filled with incomparable shock. The Heavenly Dao Business Alliance was really rich. The treasure map that Great Elder Life Force took out casually actually indicated the location of 3 eternal fruits. One should know that when he went to Yi Liangshui's house, the Yi family ancestor gave him a treasure map that indicated the location of 1 eternal fruit. In this way, Ling Xiao had the location of 4 eternal fruits in his hands. If he could be the first to find these 4 eternal fruits after entering the heavenly ancient battlefield, it would definitely allow him to gain an extremely deep foundation and break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm in one go. Thank you, Great Elder Life Force. Ling Xiao accepted the treasure map and expressed his gratitude with utmost sincerity. He had to admit that this was an irresistible temptation. At the same time, he also saw how unfathomable the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance was. Ling Xiao and Great Elder Life Force agreed that after the trial in the Heavenly Ancient Battlefield, he would return to the headquarters of the Heavenly Dao Business Alliance with Great Elder Life Force to compete for the position of the Alliance leader. Then, Ling Xiao bade farewell and prepared to return to the Green Cloud Immortal Palace to look for Li Wuji. However, he was stopped by an uninvited guest on the way. It was the little princess of the Light Celestial Court, Di Honglun. Ling Xiao, how about we make a deal? If you sell that black stone statue to me, I can give you an eternal fruit in exchange. The eternal fruit is incomparably precious. It's a supreme treasure that can allow you to reach the heavens in a single step, directly becoming a quasi-immortal emperor. What do you think? Di Hongwan rolled her eyes and smiled at Ling Xiao. Fruit of eternity? Her Royal Highness is really rich. Unfortunately, I'm not selling it. Ling Xiao looked at Di Hongwan with a faint smile and shook his head. Even now, Di Hongwan still wanted to deceive her. The black stone statue was the statue of the immortal Emperor of Light, and it was very likely that it contained the inheritance of the immortal Emperor of Light. The inheritance of the Radiance Immortal Emperor was much more precious than an eternal fruit. Ling Xiao, what will it take for you to sell it to me? The black stone statue is of no use to you. It belongs to the Light Celestial Court. Name your price. As long as you can name it, I'll definitely do it. Di Hongwan was so angry that her teeth itched, but she still forced a smile. After all, it was the statue of the Light Celestial Emperor, and it contained the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor. Naturally, she would not give it up so easily. Your Royal Highness, are you still trying to deceive me? How much do you think the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor is worth? Ling Xiao looked at Di Hongwan with a faint smile and said, How do you know it's the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor? Di Hongwan was shocked, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. However, when she saw the expression on Ling Xiao's face, she immediately showed a trace of anger. You tricked me? Di Hongwan said angrily. Your Royal Highness, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Ling Xiao shook his head and turned to leave. Wait, Ling Xiao, Since you know it's the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor, you should also know that the Light Celestial Emperor is the ancestor of the Light Celestial Court. His inheritance can only be opened by the descendants of the Light Celestial Court. You can't get the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor. Di Hongwan stood in front of Ling Xiao and said with a complicated expression, "Then what do you want?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said flatly, "Let's work together." Di Hongwan gritted her teeth and said, she originally wanted to pay a certain price to take the Light Celestial Emperor's statue from Ling Xiao. However, she did not expect Ling Xiao to know that it contained the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor. Therefore, she had no choice but to let Ling Xiao have a share of the loot. "I know where the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor is, and the core of the inheritance can only be opened by my bloodline. Ling Xiao, let's go and find the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor together." At that time, "I only want one thing in the inheritance, and I can give you the rest." Di Hongwan gritted her teeth and said, her heart was bleeding. "Work together? This is a good idea. However, where is the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor?" Ling Xiao said with a smile. This was also his goal. Di Hongwan's words could be said to be exactly what he wanted. "You don't even know where the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor is. How greedy of you to want to obtain the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor. To tell you the truth, the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor is in the heavenly ancient battlefield." Di Hongwan looked at Ling Xiao with some sarcasm. The heavenly ancient battlefield? Ling Xiao was shocked. He suddenly felt that although it was unexpected, it was also reasonable. Otherwise, why would the little princess of the Light Celestial Court come to the Creation Celestial Court? Even if she wanted the stone statue, she could have spoken to the senior members of the Heavenly Tao Business Alliance and directly bought it. It seemed that she was not only after the stone statue of the Light Celestial Emperor, but also after the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor in the heavenly ancient battlefield. However, Di Hongwan did not expect that the treasure, which she was confident of obtaining, would be taken away by Ling Xiao. Now, she had to share a share of the loot with Ling Xiao, which made her extremely depressed. "In that case, I promise you that when the heavenly ancient battlefield opens, I will work with you to find the inheritance of the Light Celestial Emperor." Ling Xiao smiled faintly and then nodded at Di Hongwan. He then turned and left. "This damn bastard." Di Hongwan was so angry that she stomped her feet, but there was nothing she could do. "Little princess, Ling Xiao is extremely talented. He is ranked first on the origin source Heavenly Tao tablet of the Celestial King realm. He is even more powerful than Ni Tsongtian and people like you. You can't offend him. You must have a good relationship with him. Perhaps he will be a great help to the Light Celestial Court." The elder behind Di Hongwan said slowly with a deep look in his eyes. "I understand, Grandpa Tree. It's just that this guy is too arrogant." Di Hongwan nodded and said unhappily, "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.